What's up? What's up? What's up? So I just actually started the live. I'm not sure why. I can never figure this thing out as it concerns YouTube, but hopefully I can get all this stuff sorted out in a second here. Hopefully I can get all this sorted out. I never understood exactly how to start a broadcast, how to connect a scheduled broadcast with one that already have running. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to kill the scheduled broadcasts, and therefore I'm thinking that people won't have any choice but to come to this new one. So let me just kill the old one, and then we can get this show on the road. Uh, let's see here. Delete. Let me see something here first. So I never understood why these things don't just merge. Because I have two broadcasts, one that I already had running, and then one that I tried to connect to. Well, for whatever reason, it doesn't, the two broadcasts don't merge. So I'm just going to delete the original one, and we're just going to roll with the new one. Going to roll with the new one. All right, so here we go. Let's go ahead and get this show started. Just another second here. And I'm just going to multitask while I do this. Let me see if I go to my channel if this thing actually shows up. Oh, it looks like it was. Yeah, let me see if this shows up now. 1 second. One more second. Yeah, it shows up. It shows up. But for whatever reason, it didn't merge. So, all right. So let me change the thumbnail really fast. All right. All right. So let's get this show on the road. And I guess I'll just let this run. I'm just going to say my spiel, say what I think, what I believe. And if, someone wants to join and, they want to speak on, speak their piece, then they can. I'm going to play poker while I'm doing this just to keep myself entertained. 1 second. Or at least I hope I'm going to play poker. I don't know. Might be having some connection issues. All right, so I'll just go ahead and start talking now. So this is the deal. So people who know me, they know me as a non-lawyer, and they know that I typically just troll the internet and I look for topics to talk about, just like any other blogger out there. Now, one of the topics that I recently chose was this whole Nicki Minaj, Jennifer Hugh, Kenneth Petty fiasco. And as far as that's concerned, I think that actually, let me kill something real fast. I think that Jennifer Hugh has a very strong chance of winning her lawsuit. And as I go and I start talking about, the whole lawsuit, I get a lot of people just coming on my channel, clowning me, dragging me, and, just being really hateful. And I'm like, look, basically, I'm just covering this story here. And here, let me share my screen and I can just play poker and entertain myself. So I'm just covering the story here. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. And, oh, shit. One more time. One more time. So, yeah, so I'm just covering a story. And from my perspective, I think Jennifer Hugh has a really strong chance of winning. Now, I'm not going to recap the entire case and recap everything that I've done so far, but if you want to know some, get the basics of this court case and what's been going on, then you can go to my channel and you can watch the videos concerning this case, right? I'll try to eventually post, 4 or 5. I'll try to post the links to some of those videos at the end of this live stream. And, people that may not be aware of it, they can come through and then they can speak on, the case as they see fit. But essentially, I'm just covering the case. So to just give a quick summary, what's happened so far is that going way back to 1996, it looks like, you have this young lady named Jennifer Hughes. She gets, assaulted by a guy named Kenneth Petty. Lo and behold, Kenneth Petty and Nicki Minaj are like high school sweethearts, wherever you want to call them. And basically from there, what happens is that you fast forward years later, after Kenny gets convicted, and we're not convicted after he cops a guilty plea. And then I guess you go, sometime after that, he ends up, murdering the guy, shooting the guy 3 times in the stomach. And now we have this, fast forward to present day, and we have this situation where essentially what's happening is that Nicki Minaj and Kenneth Petty, they've hooked up, they rekindled the flame, and they have a child together. So now what's basically happened at this point, for those that aren't aware of this story, what's happened at this point is that Kenny, for whatever reason, ends up in California, and he didn't register as a sex offender, and he ends up pleading guilty to that as well. So now he's on the hook, and he basically can end up spending up to, I think it was about 4 years in jail. So because of this, they're trying to evade this potential prison sentence. And what they're doing is that, they're going back and they're harassing 3-5. I'm kind of bored. I'm going to play this. So they're going back, and I don't have shit. They're going back and they're essentially harassing Jennifer Hughes, and they're trying to get her to recant. And I think there's a lot of things going on with this case in the sense of this whole recant thing. Apparently, way back when, there was a recant letter, and I think that letter was withdrawn, or allegedly there was a recant. People are saying that there is a recant letter. Some people are saying there wasn't a recant letter. I don't know if there was or not, but there seems to be a general consensus that at some point she was going to actually recant her story, and for whatever reason, she didn't go through with that. Now, from the way that she wrote her lawsuit, I'm of the mindset that she didn't recant because she didn't want to recant, but she just had multiple people trying to pressure her, trying to force her to recant, right? And basically she didn't want to, so, the recant was never done. So I guess recently, I've started talking about this whole lawsuit, and other people have been blogging about it. And I guess as of yesterday, I think there's like a Clubhouse interview where she comes on and she talks about her, her story, right? She talks about her story. And people are saying that she's contradicting herself, but I don't see any contradiction. What I see is that she's telling small little variations of the story, but these variations of the story are small. Like she probably mixes up a detail here and there, but she doesn't change her overall. She's consistent overall. She doesn't change her argument that she's basically been harassed directly and indirectly by Nicki Minaj, and she's been harassed indirectly and directly by Kenneth Petty. So that's never changed, right? So the whole lawsuit is supposed to address essentially 2 things. The first thing it's supposed to address is that it's supposed to address the actual assault that happened to her when she was 16. So she's coming back. She's trying to get restitution. And people are saying, why are you coming back after all this time to get restitution for a man who already served his time. But what most people don't know about the law is that the civil aspects and the criminal aspects are totally separate. Now, with that said, some courts will award restitution in a criminal case, but for whatever reason, in this case, restitution was not awarded. It wasn't even brought up. So, from my perspective, there's nothing keeping, there's absolutely nothing keeping her from asking the court for restitution, especially now that you have the situation where she's been forced to relive all of this stuff because of the recent harassment. So I think that she's going to win on, based off the original assault, and she's going to win based off of the harassment on that original assault. So she's going to win as it comes down to Kenneth Petty. Now, what people are actually saying is that when it comes down to Nicki Minaj, they're saying, why should Nicki Minaj have to pay for something she wasn't even involved in way back in 1996? They're saying that Nicki Minaj isn't involved in this whatsoever. And they're saying basically that Nicki Minaj hasn't harassed Jennifer Hugh. And basically, from what I'm seeing, all of that is basically not true, right? Basically, when you look at Jennifer Hugh's lawsuit, Jennifer Hugh specifically, let me see if I can bluff this shit because they kicking my ass. I'm gonna have to slow down if I can't bluff this because I started off with $20. I started off with 25 and now I'm down to 17. So if I can't bluff this, I'm gonna be done and just fold and just gonna tighten up. So the thing about the thing about Jennifer Hugh's lawsuit is that when you look at her claim, she's saying that Nicki Minaj basically went on the internet and she started telling different versions of the story. And she did this on multiple occasions. And that in and of itself can be taken as harassment because you're taking my story, of which I'm a victim, and you're basically going out to the internet and you're essentially telling lies. That's what it is. Let's call it for what it is. This is a decent hand. Hopefully I can get paid off this. But, motherfuckers don't seem to be folding tonight when they should. So, yeah. So Nicki Minaj is allegedly posting, ain't this a bitch? I'm going to call this shit. He probably just raising just to be raised and see if he can break me. Damn. So yeah. What do I do here? So Nicki Minaj has allegedly told multiple stories, multiple different versions of this story, saying that they were in a relationship, and Jennifer Hugh maintains that they were not in a relationship. And then Nicki Minaj, she goes on, he must have a monster. You motherfucker. Damn. Yeah, so basically Nicki Minaj has told different versions of this of the alleged assault. And that in and of itself can be taken as harassment because now Jennifer is in a position where she has to basically relive this story over and over and over and over. And now she has people trying to contact her to confirm whether or not the version that Nicki gave is true or not. And that is harassment because if you are a victim and something happened it's in 1996 and you're trying to recover from all that, and now you have people proverbially knocking on your door trying to get you to tell your version of the story and having harassing you, then yeah, that's going to be harassment. And it's due to Nicki going out on social media and basically telling different versions of the story when she really had no right to. And what's Nicki's source of information at this point? Her only source of information is basically Kenneth Petty, right? That's the only source of information. Nicki Minaj wasn't there. Nicki Minaj doesn't have direct knowledge of what happened. So, she's basically just taking everything that Kenny says word for word and she's blasting it on the internet. So that in and of itself is harassment, in my opinion. And I think that they actually missed an opportunity for additional lawsuits for stuff like invasion of privacy and false light, because this is a personal, private matter that happened to Jennifer Hugh, and you're taking this information and you're throwing it out there on the internet when this woman really just wants to be left alone. And then it's also false light because you're telling different versions of the story, making her look bad, right? So there's a lot of different claims that Jennifer could have made, and I'm not sure why she didn't make all those additional claims. Maybe they were just in a situation where they were just trying to get the lawsuit in as quickly as possible. I know that happens a lot. I think that, Jennifer Hugh can always go back and add those additional claims to it. Man, they are kicking my ass. She can always go back and add these additional claims to her lawsuit. So it's not a huge deal. But I just think that people are off when it comes down to Nicki Minaj's role. Allegedly, Nicki, everything in this live cast is alleged. I have no direct knowledge of any of the stuff. All I'm doing is basically telling you what I've read in the lawsuit. So everything in this cast is alleged. I have no direct knowledge. Nothing has been true. Nothing is actually true except for the parts where it's already been confirmed in the courts in terms of the assault, the guilty plea for the assault, and the guilty plea for manslaughter. What's going on, Adrian? And what's going on, Vanderveer? Vanderveer says exactly, and his name is not over. Part of a plea deal was to register, and he didn't. I don't know. I couldn't catch all that, but I'll just post it or whatever. So yeah, so that's the gist of it. So I guess there's this Clubhouse interview where Jennifer Hughes supposedly has debunked her own story, but again, I just don't see it. I don't see it at all. So if you guys want to join in this conversation, if you want to voice your opinion, I love to hear what you have to say. Maybe we can go a little bit deeper with this, but so I continue talking about it and give people the chance to voice their opinion and probably just call it a day or whatever. So I'm not seeing any situation where Jennifer Hugh has debunked her own story. I think that the version of the story that she told on The View and the version of the story that she told in her lawsuit are slightly different, but they're not so much different. Motherfucker. This motherfucker got it straight. He must have a 5 or a 10. I think he has a 5, or he's just bluffing. And I don't even feel. Oh, wait a minute. I got a 10. What the hell? Call this. So I'm not seeing how Jennifer is basically debunking her own story. I think when you look at The View and then you read her lawsuit, you'll see that there is some inconsistencies between what she's saying on The View and her lawsuit, but they're very minor. It's so minor that it's actually trivial. And then when you look at some of the things that she said on the Clubhouse interview, I think it's Nosy Hose or something like that. It's a French pronunciation. When you look at some of the things that she said on that Clubhouse interview, I'm not really seeing anything that would basically say that her story is debunked. And then when you look at, there was one thing that probably is a cause of concern, and that's the fact that the way the lawsuit is worded, and she comes out and say this. She says that basically she never said that Nicki Minaj offered her any money. She never said that. The claim is that Black offered money and Black put $20,000 on her lap, and that's essentially the claim. And people are saying that Black has nothing to do with Nicki Minaj, and I think what they don't realize when people come out and say that Black has nothing to do with her, what they don't realize is that what's going to happen. Well, first, let me just say this. First of all, Jennifer doesn't have to prove every single thing in her lawsuit up front. I think at the end of the day, she will have to prove her lawsuits, all the elements, not necessarily all of them, but she will have to prove something, right? At the end of the day, but she doesn't have to prove everything up front. So, with that in mind, I believe what's going to happen is that she's going to go to court and she's going to file for a subpoena. Once this lawsuit gets kicked off and it gets underway, and things get to, there's like motions and things like that back and forth. I think what's going to happen is that there's going to be some subpoenas, right? And one of the things I think is going to happen, they're going to subpoena everybody's phone records. And then they're going to look to see whether or not Black and Nicki Minaj were in communication prior to contacting Jennifer. And if they weren't smart enough to use burner phones to communicate, then it's over. It's absolutely over. If there's any way that they can prove that Black and Nicki Minaj were in communication between prior to contacting Jennifer, then it's going to be absolutely over, in my personal opinion. So, and I think that's the one thing that people just aren't, realizing, and they're just not really paying a lot of attention to. So that's really the gist of it. If you guys have any opinions on this, feel free, drop a note, or join the chat. I'll post the StreamYard link again, because I really want to hear what you guys have to say on all this. I think that what a lot of people don't understand, and what even I learned, right? It took me a long time. Do I want to call this? Do I want to call this? All right, fuck it. Let's see if my hand get better. If he got a 7, I'm fucked. Oh, he checked. He checked. Sign of weakness. Sign of weakness. Time to get in that ass. Sign of weakness. If he raises, then I know he has a straight. He has a 7. So, excuse me. So, yeah, so you don't have to prove the entire lawsuit up front. I think you just need to start off with a factual statement, and you have to have I really should fold this. I'm just going to fold this. You start off with a factual statement, and then you need a factual statement, and then you also need allegations or causes of action, right? That's all you need, right? And then from there, and when I say a factual statement, you're basically listing the chain of events, right? And you list it as a fact, right? And then if the opposing party sees that the chain events are different, or they're arguing that the chains of events are different, then what they're going to do, at least in federal court, I know they're going to give you and the opposing party a chance to agree on what the facts are, right? So basically, from the facts, what's going to happen is that you just have to list a cause of action. And that just means you're finding things in law that would give you relief, right? So for example, a fact would be Nicki Minaj. A fact would be that Kenneth Petty and Jennifer Hugh met at the bus stop, right? That's a fact, right? So he could come back and say, well, we didn't meet at the bus stop. I saw her 2 blocks down from the bus stop. So, okay, then they would change the facts to, Kenny and Jennifer met 2 blocks away from the bus stop, right? So that's just kind of how that process goes. Typically, you can't really lie about the facts, because I think what's going to happen is that the court is going to give both of the parties a chance to come to an agreement as to what the facts are, right? So from there, all you need is a cause of action, right? Something in the law that entitles you to relief, right? So you can't sue somebody because you don't like their shirt. You can't sue somebody because you don't like the way they have their hair done. So you just have to have a legitimate reason. They're coming to get me. I don't know if you guys can hear sirens. You just have to have a legitimate reason for basically suing somebody. And you do that by providing the law, right? So for an intentional motion to distress, it has several elements, and you have to prove each element in that cause and action in order to win, right? So that's from a high level. That's the way I think it works. So basically, Vanderveer is saying, let's see what he's saying. Kenny was on live with a gun in his pocket, and he's a felon. It's all over YouTube. I mean, so here's the other thing. I always have to ask, is Kenny, does Nicki Minaj have low self-esteem? And you probably thinking, dude, you crazy. Why would Nicki Minaj have low self-esteem? The reason I ask that question is because here you are, you're worth $85 million, right? According to Google, she's worth $85 million. And she's beautiful. She has everything going for herself. And it's like, she steps down and she chooses a guy who is basically a murderer and a rapist. And I can understand she came from the streets, right? Shakira Muhammad says she does have self-esteem, low self-esteem, and it shows, right? That's my opinion. That I kind of want to believe that, right? Of course, I have no way of knowing whether or not that's true. It's just my own opinion, and it looks like a couple of people agree with me. And here's the thing: you're worth $85 million. That's a lot of fucking money. It's like you never have to worry about anything. She can stop singing and performing right here, right now, and never, ever, ever, ever have to work again in her life. Her children don't even have to work for the next probably, I would say, 5 or 6 generations. No one in her bloodline has to work again in their life, right? So how in the hell do you end up choosing a murderer and a rapist to have your baby? Explain it to me, because I just don't get it. I just simply do not get it. So I believe she has low self-esteem because there's so many other people that she could have basically chosen. So Vanderveer, you're saying yes, and childhood trauma. What do you mean by the childhood trauma? Yeah, so I just don't understand it. I just really don't understand it. And then people are saying, well, Kenneth Petty, he's turning his life around. He's, he's done things to better himself. I don't see any of that shit, to be honest with you. The only thing I see is a rapist and a murderer. And then, like I said, you can go, like someone else has alleged that there's videos or pictures of him all over YouTube with guns and all that stuff. You know what? Owning a gun is not in itself a crime, is not a problem. Lots of people own guns. But, at the end of the day, I think that you got to control your image, right? If you've been known to be out there fucking up, I would think you want to kind of get some positive images out there of yourself. And owning pictures of you with a gun. I mean, yeah, that's your right, and everybody has a right, to own a gun. But it depends on how these pictures look. I don't have any links. It'd be nice if I can see some links, but it depends on how you're being represented with these guns. Because I just think that in my personal opinion, guns can be kind of negative. Sure, it's for self-defense and things of that nature. 1 second. But at the end of the day, let me see if I have odds. I'm gonna call this shit. Fuck it. If I don't hit, I don't hit. I'm trying to get it straight. So at the end of the day, if you're not trying to do something positive, you're not trying to represent yourself in a positive light, then God damn, I gotta fold this shit, motherfucker. Oh, he got a set of kings. So if you're not trying to do something positive, at the end of the day, I think you're not doing yourself any favors because, like I said, you've already been convicted. You're already a convicted felon. You're a rapist and a murderer. Me, to be honest with you, to get that dirt off my shoulder, I would be out volunteering to soup kitchens. I would, probably be in someone's local church, or just trying to do anything positive. Because the sad thing in all of this, and I think I actually pointed out in one of my videos, is that he could have actually tried to get that sex offenders, the offender registry removed, right? He could have petitioned to have that removed, right? Hold on a second here, guys. I'm backstage. I'm waiting to get on the live. Oh shit! All right, let me add you. Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't even notice you. Go ahead, Shakira. What do you think about this whole controversy? Please keep it clean. I just flopped it straight. I know they're not going to pay me, so I'm just going to check it. Keep it clean. What do you think about this whole controversy, and do you think that Nicki has low self esteem? It looks like your mic. Can you
Can you
talk?
hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay. So this is what I want to say, because I was one of the people that I've been following this story since the very, very beginning, when before Jennifer ever showed her face.
Huh. So
And
hold on a second. So when you say the very beginning, you're talking like 1996 very beginning,
no, no, no,
or
no, 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 no. Sorry, sorry. Let me clarify. Since it became a thing, it's been like going on about what, 3 years now.
I think that's about right. Yeah.
Yeah, that this has been a thing, and I want to say this because I'm on a lot of different blogs, and I've heard different people in comment sections and things like that speak on this situation.
Okay.
Um, Let me first just say, excuse my language, but Nikki is no fucking victim in this situation. Okay, she brought all of this on herself when she opened up her mouth. She was not there, so therefore she had no right to come on any platform, be it her own or any other platform, and speak on this woman and what happened. I don't give a shit what her husband told her. Okay? Because if she really wanted to know the truth, she could have listened to his version of events, and then she could have went and used her resources and pulled this information
Right.
and read it for herself.
Right.
With that being said, my biggest thing, and it's even been annoying with some of the bloggers on this side, where people are acting like this girl just woke up one day, Jennifer I'm talking about, and just
Right.
decided to go after Nikki and her pedophile raping husband.
Right. Avoid the R word if you can.
Oh, sorry,
That's
the
okay.
R word. You know,
Yeah. Just
yeah,
say
the
assaulter or vapist or
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know
Got
or
it, got
mapist
it.
or
Sorry
whatever,
about that.
or just say R word.
Yeah, the R word. My thing is this: this person has been on the SO registry and been registering just fine all these years.
Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out, why did he, for whatever reason, decide he wasn't going to register. Now, like, why now? Why now do you decide
I'm
you're going to stop
I can
registering?
give you my opinion.
What is it? I want to hear.
And
I mean,
my
that's what we're here
opinion
for.
is I feel like he had no problem registering. There was never issue. I feel like he got with Nikki, and I think the fame and the money, and I think also Nikki has a lot to do with why he didn't register. Probably because maybe I don't even think is everybody keeps saying, "Oh well, she didn't want her address to be public." She don't didn't want her address to be public. Her address is pretty much public anyway. I don't think it's that. I think if he had registered in California, it would have became public information because he's with her now, and I think she was thinking like she didn't want that. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, you know what? I don't know if I buy that argument because she's a mega millionaire. How much effort is it to just have two houses, right? You have, one house where, he basically goes to from time to time, right? And then you have, the main house, which is where they live. I think for the purpose of, oh yeah, so it is kind of tricky. Actually, I don't know because I
No,
don't
no, no.
know.
You know what's it's funny? It's funny that you say that what you just said because I said the same thing. I said this whole thing with him registering is just crazy to me because the address thing don't not wanting your address public. She could have went. She could have went and got a separate residence
Yeah,
in
that's what I'm saying. She's a
somebody
mega
else's
millionaire.
name and use that address and then they had to have a second home.
Right.
It's
But,
not
but I
uncommon
guess you
for
have to be careful though, because it could get tricky because I guess, and this is where they probably could have gotten a lawyer involved, right? Because I can imagine one thing that could happen with that is that you're an offender and you're saying you live someplace, but you really don't, right? So I think he would have to legitimately live there, but who's to say you can't legitimately live in like two different places?
you can
So
legitimately live in two residences.
yeah, but
I,
then I think if you're
well,
living in the other residence, then you have to list that other residence. So I can kind of see how it becomes a problem now.
I
I
don't want
maybe
to
this
I don't want to put no incriminating information on your platform, but let me just say this: there's more than one way to skin a cat.
right. I mean,
There's ways around things,
right.
and I'm telling you this from
Well, let me play devil's advocate then. Who's to say that maybe he did try to skin a cat a different way, and this is the end result? Maybe he did do exactly what we're saying. Like I don't know. I'm going to admit I don't know the details of his guilty plea. I don't know the details behind him not registering. So I can only speculate as to what actually happened. But that this one little piece doesn't make sense because all this time he was fine with registering. But I can say the only thing that's different now is that I'm gonna have to bluff this because I'm out of position. See if I can take it out. The only thing that's different now is that he's with Nicki Minaj and he has a baby, right? So actually, to be honest with you, I don't even know if I would have put in a guilty plea unless they gave me a plea deal. I would have said, look, this is why I didn't register. I would have said first off, this thing is over, X amount of years old. It's like almost what is it, 27 years old, right? It's almost 27 years old. And I would have said something like, it's not that I don't respect the law, but now I have a family and I have a son and I'm, married to essentially, whether he's married or not, that's really irrelevant. So I'm just going to pretend that he is. And I would just say, I'm married to Nicki Minaj and she's a celebrity. So now I'm in the situation where there's a catch-22 because if I register, then I would basically be telling everyone where, she lives. And that would be, create a bigger problem. So I don't know. I think he probably could have gotten away with actually fighting it. And I think, this thing is just all crazy because all he had to do was just, I think, 3 more years and he could have had his name removed.
well, it depends on what level he is, and it depends on you know, when he was paroled. It depends on the level. It depends on what the conditions of his parole were. Um,
Right. I
that
mean, yeah, he
that
basically
all
has
plays
to.
a factor into it. But my thing, I personally like if I had to roll the dice and pick one. And I'm gonna tell you something, as someone who have a lot of friends in the industry and some family, and I've been around a lot of industry people, big names, small names, everything in between. Um, they have a different mindset when it comes to just being held accountable and what applies to the normal everyday person. And let me tell you, from now, this is to the best of my recollection. What happened is when Nikki first got with him, this wasn't a thing. Like nobody was uh, worried about him. She
Right.
started posting him, and throwing up the gang signs and that crap. Remember when the whole thing happened with her and Cardi B? Like right after that,
Right.
that's when he popped up on the scene.
Right.
And
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. What's going on? I am Chris Dadon. What's going on, Rodney? Rodney, man, you need to join the chat. I mean, join the StreamYard conversation so we can chop it up. We haven't spoken. You've been on my channel for a long time. We need to chat, man. Go ahead. I'm sorry. What's up, Andre? Go ahead,
uh
Shakira.
Vanderveer made a good point. He has other children. He always registers, so I don't even think that would um I don't even think that would be a good argument. But what
Well, I
happened
mean,
is
the problem. I think the having a child is only part of it. I didn't know that he had other children, but
he
having a
has
child
like
is on.
four, he has like five other children, four or five
Oh,
other children.
damn. So hold on a second. So now I really wonder if she has low self esteem. So this motherfucker is a rapist, a murderer, and he got 5 kids. Damn, he
I'm
must be.
if I had to roll a dice and guess, I don't think that they're legally married, and this is why I don't think that they're legally married. Let's go back to the Yandy and Mendici situation for instance. If you ever watched that Love and Hip Hop, one of the things Yandy said, it was two things when it came out that they weren't legally married. Yandy said, I'm not making a deal with the government. Basically, she was saying, like, I ain't making no deal with the government. The government ain't going to come and take what I work for because of what he did in his past.
Right.
Not only that, Mendices has, besides the two kids with Yandy, he has one. He has the two boys that's not with Yandy, and then he has the two kids that's with Yandy. Yandy did also, which she alluded to when child support came up. She didn't want to be legally responsible to pay child support for his kids. Now, this is what I'm thinking, and this is just me thinking why I don't believe that they're legally married.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think if you don't think those one of those 4 or 5 baby mamas would have came after him by now for child support and had him in
Well,
court? You don't think so?
um, you know what? Honestly, in my personal opinion, so I'm from Chicago, and I know a lot of people in and out of that whole child support situation. I'm in and out of it myself, and from what I can figure, is that typically when you have people that's like living on under the radar, they typically don't come after them, and by
True.
him, you know what I mean. It's like, what are you gonna
Typically
get?
you wouldn't, but if he all of a sudden he's with Nicki Minaj and he done made another kid and she's worth what 100 million or somewhere around there. Hmm. I just don't think that they're legally married. And if they're not legally married,
Well, but you know
I,
what? That theory, I don't like that theory, because here's the thing: the fact that they're married doesn't change anything, because they would know that he's with Nikki, and then the logic still applies. If he's with Nikki and Nikki has money, then all I have to do in Chicago, at least, they would think that all I have to do is just bring this nigga back in court for child support bring him back in child support
but
court, and then they're going to arrest him until he pays down
I
his
understand what you're
fee.
saying.
You see what I'm
I, under,
saying? So it's
I
like there's no
understand
way.
what you're saying. But listen, my cousin has 11 children by
Damn.
no, he has yeah 11 children by
So
10
he
different women. The only thing that ever kept him out of the whole child support mess was because he was I don't know if it was smart or whatever it was, but he had children with career women.
Uh,
So, and what were they really going to get
right.
by the time the pie gets broken down when you have a baby with somebody with that many kids? The reason I'm saying I don't think that I think there's a strong possibility that they might not be legally married, because it's one thing, you're absolutely right, but it's one thing if they bring him to court because she's with him, she's
Right.
not.
Because she's not
It
gonna let him sit
no,
in
no,
jail. She's
hold
gonna
on, but it's one thing to say they're not married, right?
right.
So she can bargain a little bit better and say, look, to keep him out of jail or keep him, I'll agree to give you each mother X amount of dollars. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
It's a different situation because this happened to a friend of mine, and her husband ended up getting a divorce because of
Oh.
this. She said it was no way that she was going to pay. The mothers went and they found out that she had, that she made a substantially more money than him, and they brought her to court and him, and they wanted not that they weren't getting child support, they
Right.
wanted an increase in the child support, and
They
she said
wanted to increase.
she said no, no ma'am. But
Well, how old is his kids anyway? Like, are they
my
like?
friend's kids,
No, I'm talking about Kenneth Petty's kids. Other
they
kids.
range in different ages. I know one is like a teen, I think it was like a teenager one that came. They range in all different ages, so but he definitely has more than just the kid with Nikki. But what I was trying to say about the child support is one thing to just say here, we're not married, so I don't legally got to do anything. But
Right. No, no, she, yeah, no,
I'll
I agree
agree
with
to
that.
give you this. It's another thing when you're legally married and they count that income and then they come in and say, well, we know he don't got the money, but we know you got the bag. Then that can put her in a different situation where they could actually be going by her income and see what she brings in, and she
So is
be
that
on
how
the
they do
hook.
it? Do it in New York? They look at the household income of
New
both
York they
parents.
do it, New Jersey they do it,
Oh, that's crazy.
Connecticut they do it, Pennsylvania. Is Look, I'm telling you, do some research. A lot of different uh states operate
I
like
don't think
that.
we do that here in Illinois. I think they
Probably
basically
not in
just
Illinois,
go
but
by, the
when you
income of the
come like
mother and the.
northeast, like, you know a lot of they'll tell you, that they'll do that. If he can't pay, if y'all not legally married, then it's nothing they can do. They can hold him in contempt and keep him in jail. And of course we know she's not going to let him sit in jail.
Of
So
course.
she's in a better position financially. And if she's not legally married to him, I don't even think that's a smart thing in my opinion, because he's a liability. The thing that
Basically.
burns me up with the situation with Jennifer, is like everybody's acting like Jennifer just woke up out of her bed one day and decided to just go after them. This has been a buildup of things that have happened. And I'm willing to bet that there's the things that she's alleging, phone calls, and I'm willing to bet that they're just sitting on that information, because when you file a lawsuit civilly, there's a process, there's paperwork, there's a bunch of steps. But one of the
Well,
steps.
let me interrupt right here. I think one of the things that a lot of people aren't paying attention to or probably don't realize is that they are saying that Black acted on his own volition. And maybe they're thinking that they have an ace in the hole and they can prove that Black is actually acting in concert, acting by the direction of Nicki Minaj. Because one thing they can do, like you said, as court gets started, they can actually subpoena.
Discovery.
Yeah, discovery. There you
It's
go.
discovery point. Hmm.
So, the one thing I don't understand about all this is that, and this is something you actually brought up earlier. So, when Nikki actually first started telling different versions of the story on, here, let me
Queen
just check.
Radio.
Yeah, Queen, not only Queen Radio, but she actually, I think allegedly she went to Instagram or Twitter or something like that, right?
See, I don't I only heard it on Queen Radio because I have I listen to the different radio and podcasts on Apple Music, so I only saw it what she said on there. I didn't know that she spoke on it on other platforms.
Yeah, well, so it's actually in the lawsuit, right? It's actually in the lawsuit.
Okay.
I think I covered. I just can't remember what platform, but she actually has a screenshot of the statement that Nikki made on a platform. Maybe I'll get it in a second here. Give me,
Oh
yeah. So
wow!
she actually
I
has
gotta go
it.
look that up.
So my whole thing is, did Nikki do this intentionally, or was it? Did she just simply believe what was told to her? And it's hard to believe that she just took whatever was told to her at face value, because that's like the stupidest thing you can do. The guy is basically a rapist, a murderer, and he's been in and out of jail. And you're basically going to listen to his version of the story, and you're going to blast that on the internet, and you don't care about the other person and how the other person could be affected by that. I guess at this point I'm trying to figure out what was going through Nikki's head when she decided to basically throw all that stuff out there, because people are saying that Nikki is very smart, right? And to be honest
I
with you,
don't.
I've never thought about her level of intelligence. I think she's very attractive and she has a lot going for herself. So I can't tell you, but whether she's a smart person or not, but I can say that that wasn't a smart move.
No, not at all. I would have never got involved in that situation. I would never speak on something given the platform, know her fan base is. And I remember, if I remember correctly, it was her.
I think I got a low signal. Trying to get my money back from poker. Let me see something. Maybe I can. All right, so it's improved. Go ahead.
Uh, darn, what was I saying? I just
I
lost my train
totally
of thought.
forgot. My bad.
Uh, no, I was saying I definitely feel like she made a bad move on her part. To come on her platform and do what she did to me, that was the most idiotic thing that she could have did. But also, you got to understand, you're not dealing with a normal thinking person. You're dealing with a celebrity, a woman who has a bunch of money,
Tons of
who's used
money
to doing things and not being really held accountable.
held accountable.
And Jennifer is not the first person to feel the wrath of Nikki, and Nikki has sick fans on people before. Everybody from
Hold
academics
on a
to
second.
me.
What do you mean by? Hold on a second. This is new to me. Hold on a second. So Vanderveer basically says the Fed picked up Kenny's case. I'm sure they probably have other stuff on him, but letting him run wild for a minute. Yeah, that's the other
I
thing.
agree.
I
And we
mean,
don't know what else they have on him. We don't know. I mean, he was on Instagram Live. I still have the screen recording in my iCloud where he was on Instagram Live toting a illegal firearm, convicted
well, how
felon,
do you know it
right?
was illegal though?
He's a convicted felon. You can't possess a firearm.
Oh, damn. Are you sure?
He's a he cannot
Yeah,
legally
that
in
that
the
that
state of New
yeah.
York possess a firearm.
So after you become, and I don't know everything, right?
He can't.
So
No, not in New
after
York.
you're a felon in the state of New York, you can no longer own the.
Can't
Yeah, I
do it
mean,
in
but he can easily say, oh, there was a toy gun, or there was a replica, or it was plastic, or something like that.
toy gun or not. I mean,
So things you see on the internet. To be honest with you,
but when you're
it's
making threats against somebody, that's a whole nother thing.
was
You
it a real
understand what I'm
threat
saying?
though?
Huh?
Was it an actual real threat?
I mean, he was. This is when the whole academics thing was going on, and academics put out the DMs of Nikki threatening him and threatening with her husband, and yeah, the back and forth. Yes,
That's crazy.
And then
That
he's
is so
on
crazy.
Instagram Live. I'm just going to assume it was a real gun. Now, if he says otherwise, that's different. But I mean, you're on Instagram toting a, well, if it was real or if it, I'm going to say it was real. You're a convicted felon toting a firearm.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, you never know. He could always argue that it wasn't real or whatever, and they would probably have to actually find, the weapon on him to,
Yeah.
So I mean,
But
it's kind of
what I'm saying is, it's just not a good look for somebody that.
no, no, and I agree with that. It's
That's
definitely
not
not
a
a good
good look
look.
at all. And if it was a fake gun, that makes it even worse. Because if
How
you if
so?
he if he took that, it makes it I mean, to put flash a fake gun on social media, that to me is just crazy. That's crazy. I would never do anything like that. If he pointed that same, let's say, you know, let's entertain what you're saying. Let's say it was fake, but if he point that gun at a cop, what are they gonna do? They're gonna say, "Oh no, that's a fake gun.
Oh,
We're not
oh, for
gonna."
sure.
No, they're gonna lay you. They're gonna
We
lay
already
you
know what's
down.
going to happen. He don't even have to point it. All they have to do is just find him on him,
Yeah.
and we already know what's going
So
to go
there's
down.
been a lot of things that he's been, you know, doing. And here's my thing. Everybody keeps acting like, oh, he was 16 and this happened.
That
Now
dude is not an angel for
let's
sure.
just
For
say
damn sure, he's not an
let's
angel.
just say, because I do believe that people can redeem themselves.
Of course.
My
But
uncle.
what has he done to show you that he's
Let me
been
let me
trying
let me
to?
tell you, my uncle, right? If my uncle is living proof of that. My uncle was in and out of trouble from the time he was like 10 years old all the way up until the last time my uncle really did any time, I'm gonna say somewhere like mid 2000 or something like that. So basically, when my uncle did his last bid in jail, um, he was in his late 40s, early 50s.
Mm.
Yeah, from all that time, and I think what happened
Well,
the
some
last.
some people would say he's too old to actually commit any crimes. He can't run anymore. He's tired. And he has to take Geritol. Some people would. No, I'm just joking. But
No,
go ahead.
my uncle, and let me tell you something. My uncle was like a career criminal.
Right.
And I'm gonna tell you something else. My uncle also has a missing limb. I'm not gonna say which one, but he just has a missing limb, and he was still a criminal. But when he went to jail, I say that last time while he was there, family members that was close to him passed away, and I think that messed him up.
Okay.
That he was away, and from that point on, when he got out, my uncle has never been back, and he's actually got his little business going on, and he's not out in the streets no more doing it. I mean, he did a total 360. If you met him, you wouldn't even know this unless about him, and unless he tells you that. So I do believe that it's possible for people to redeem themselves, but people are acting like he did that one thing and then he was just been a choir boy the rest of his life.
No, we know that's not
Like,
true.
stop it. This girl was not sitting here uh just plotting on them. Nikki should have. First of all, Nikki even let's just say Nikki contacted her, right? I'm
Right.
sure as a
Now,
convicted
I believe. Hold on a second. I can understand that situation. I can understand it. Nikki and Petty, allegedly, well, not alleged because this is already a fact. He gets basically arrested for failing to register. So I would imagine, I believe that some form of desperation kicked in. I know desperation would have kicked in for me. So I can understand that part. And yeah, out of desperation, I would have reached out to Jennifer through a lawyer, right? And just said, hey, what is it that, we can do to get my name off of this registry, right? I don't know that I would have asked her to commit a felony to basically lie or recant, but you don't have to basically be stuck kind of like in a hole. You can just say, well, hey, what is it that I need? And I think Nikki did ask if it was possible to get her to come out and basically speak on his case, right? In this case, in California, where where he didn't register. So I think they were probably desperate. At least I would have been desperate in that situation. And I think in that desperation, they went about all this the wrong way. That's what I think.
I can respect that, but let me ask you this: do you think that that was a smart move on their part to do it that way?
No, of course not. I would have. The way I would have did it is that, and I think Nikki actually missed an opportunity because I think at one point the Jennifer said, "Well, hey, look, woman to woman, I need, he did this, right?" And I think when she said it that way, that she was trying to connect with Nikki. And allegedly, from looking at the way it's written in the lawsuit, Nikki hung up at that point. And I think that if Nikki had not hung up and she would have just simply talked to the woman, then I think they could have gotten closer to actually getting his name off the registry because they could have ended up in a situation where she could have possibly healed from all this. And with healing basically comes, in my opinion, comes resolution. It may not have been something that would have been helpful right then and there, but yeah, I think that she missed opportunity. But yeah, I would have went about it a slightly different way. I think I would have just had my lawyer reach out one time.
But
But the way my lawyer would have reached out, I would have said, look, I just want to see if we can sit down and, number one, get you some restitution. I would have opened up with restitution. I would have said, look, you know what? My client has actually thought about, everything that's happened, and he wants you to have peace. He wants you to be, have healing. And we want to start talking to you about getting you restitution. And you start from there, right? You get her at the table. I don't know if I would have asked for her to do anything up front, right? And that's the way Nikki approached it, according to the lawsuit. She opened up with, "Hey, we heard you can do something for us." No, you don't open like that, right? That's not how you negotiate. You got to get her firmly at the table first. You say something like, "Well, hey, you know, our client has basically regretted this whole situation and it's troubled him all his life. And you can see that he's in hot water now. We want to sit down with you and begin having a conversation. But most importantly, we want to start getting you some restitution and basically, getting a situation where you can start to heal." And then in that way, it's not it's not a payoff. It's a legitimate situation where you're trying to help her find peace and you're trying to help her, you're trying to resolve this whole thing as much as it can be resolved, right?
let me
Because go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
let me say this, and I spoke to a parole probation officer about this. My
Hold on
a
a second.
relative of mine.
Hold on a second. Vanderveer, how do you know he's not allowed to be on social media? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Um, I One of the things that I know and I verified is when you in a situation like with Kenneth, Nikki, and Jennifer, I'm sure in his as a condition of his parole, probation, whatever, he was instructed not to have any contact with Jennifer directly or indirectly.
I don't think that's going to apply to a lawyer
No,
because
no, no, no,
a
no, no, no,
lawyer
no.
could, a
That's not.
lawyer
That's not.
could,
Listen, listen, listen,
yeah.
listen. That's not
Go
what
ahead.
I'm not. I'm not saying that. I'm talking about Nikki. Nikki. So the fact that Nikki reaching out to her, and if what she alleged in a lawsuit said to her, and I believe it, that right there was a problem.
I'm
What
sorry. I'm
The
distracted a little
fact
bit.
that
Say that
Nikki
again.
reached out to her was a problem.
Oh,
You can't
of
have somebody
course.
reach out to one of your victims to try to uh do that. You just can't do that. Now, what I probably, first of all, I'm gonna be honest with you. I wouldn't even have got into that. He would have been dealing with that on his own. I would have never gotten involved in that. But let's just, for argument's sake, say that I would have. One, I do agree. I would not have reached out to her personally. I wouldn't have had none of my goons, none of my friends, no. I would have had a legal representative,
That's
and
right.
I think what would have helped, maybe if she, like, Kenny, like, wasn't on Instagram threatening blogger, I mean, people like academics and, Meek and all these other people on her behalf, and acting a fool. Maybe if she really, like, okay, let's clean him up, let's get him a, working, and let's show him, maybe counseling, like something to say that he's redeemed. Then your legal team, right? Because now, it's public, make it, somewhat public. And then you go to her and say, you know what, this happened when he was 16, you know, and he's now, since then, he's done this, that, and that.
Right.
And now he's a man who I
It's changed
believe
his life. It's
that
changed
has
his life
changed
around.
his life around and has been a pillar in his community, right?
Right.
And then you approach it from that way, not approaching somebody, asking them to recant something, basically to go on record and perjure themselves and say they lied about something that actually happened. Like, that's, you don't do it like that. And
Right.
it is possible, if they had done it differently, that maybe, I don't know what his level is on the sex offender registry.
Two. It's two.
It's a two, so that's fairly low. That's fairly
No, I
low.
mean it's actually there's from my understanding. Yeah, actually I can't speak to that. I was going to say there's only a 2 and 3, but I'm not. I can't remember 100% for sure. But go ahead.
Well, he could have. It could be where
I think it goes to 1 and 3. But go ahead.
I thought it was. You know what?
So
I'm gonna
what
check.
it is it goes from 1 to 3. Don't quote me. And then there's
I thought it was one to
designations.
four, but I'm gonna
I mean,
verify
yeah,
that.
1 and 3, 1 to 4. But I
I
think each level has a designation, right? So you can be a 2 and not be a violent offender
Yeah,
or so on and so forth.
where you can travel, and I gotta verify that with this. Like I said, I have a relative that's a parole probation officer, and they tend to deal with the higher level offenders. But I'm sure at some point, this person and the people he worked with in his office have probably dealt with some lower level offenders. So I'm just gonna ask them, reach out to them, and try to figure out the different levels and, the requirements for each level. But I think that approach would have been better than, approaching her and trying to get her to basically say she lied, and that just wasn't cool.
Right.
And personally, if and I believe Jennifer, and I believed her when she first came out, and I believe her now. uh
I
I
mean,
th-
there's just too much stacked against Kenny for you not to believe her, right?
no.
She went to the police right away. She had no real motive at that time to basically tell a lie like that. You know what I mean? A rape kit was performed, even though they didn't use a rape kit because he basically pled guilty, but the rape kit was taken, right? And then, he basically pled guilty to a lesser charge, right?
Yeah.
And people are coming out saying that, oh, why did he only did that because he didn't have a lawyer. Well, I mean, they offer free lawyers at that point. I mean, I understand you don't want to stay in jail, but there's no way in the world I'm about to cop to a rape charge, an R charge when I didn't actually do it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
There's just no way. You know what I mean? And then you look at the type of guy he is. He's gone to jail for murdering somebody. The guy, to me, in my
And
opinion, the guy
that
is just an
too.
absolute scumbag. So there's no
Yeah.
reason for me to take his word over hers. As a matter of fact, I haven't even heard him come out and say, "Oh, I didn't do any of this." I just hear other people coming out saying that he didn't do this or whatever. And I just know that Nicki Minaj came out on her platform and said, "Oh, well, they were dating" or something like that. I have not actually heard him come out and speak on it. So we don't even have his word. So there's no reason for me not to believe Jennifer Hughes. She sounds very believable. I think people are too busy trying to pick her story apart over minor little details that they're missing the bigger picture. And that is that she's been consistent with everything she said. She never said that Black was actually working for Nicki Minaj. She never
She didn't
said,
say that either.
yeah,
No, she
in her
didn't.
lawsuit, that's not in there. And even when she does a clubhouse interview, she doesn't say that. But just going back to how it was all approached from the Pettys and Minaj, and so on and so forth. Like I said, they could have just hired a lawyer, and there would have been a way to actually proceed on a legal level above board. And like I said, they could have negotiate in a way that Jennifer could not have said no. For example, a lawyer could have gone. I think I understand what you're saying, but there's no way to actually have a conversation with her unless you contact her on Jennifer on an official level, right? And I think one of the ways that could have been done
No.
is
I'm saying I agree with what you're saying as far as legal representation, reaching out to. I
right.
do agree with that part. But what I'm saying is before going to a lawyer, right, to do
Mm-hmm.
that, I'm saying she could have took some steps to clean up his image, and you understand what I'm saying? So when you go and
I'm sorry, 1 second. Hey, Vanderveer, do you have any information on the actual lawsuit? I actually want to see that. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm
Go,
saying like normally, right, when there is, I don't know about, now I'm not going to say about the R cases and the M cases, those type of cases, right? But I
right.
do know, because I was someone who, I had an incident when I was a minor, and it was a bad incident that I
Okay.
got into, something that I did, and it was
Okay.
bad. If
Okay.
I would have been an adult and I did it, I would have faced serious time and uh just punishment, other punishment
Are
from it.
you too? Are you afraid that it may come back to you or something like that? That's why you don't want to mention it, or
No,
you
I'm not
don't
going to
want to
say.
mention
I'm,
it
I'm gonna
because
just
you
say
just
this. I don't. I just because for legal reasons, I'm not going to go too deep into it. But it
right.
was a situation where I was initially the victim in a situation,
Okay.
but I became, as the courts would had it, I became the victimizer.
Okay.
If that makes sense to you.
I can see how could make sense.
Basically, what happened to me, they said the way I retaliated, I guess it was extreme.
Okay.
So we'll just say that. And this happened when I was under the age of 18. I'll just say that.
Okay.
And now I did have to pay restitution for it.
Oh, did you really?
Oh, what? hmm hmm
And so tell me about that process because one of the things
I was
that
sued, and
was the
there was
lawsuit separate or was it a part of the
I was
case?
sued. I faced criminal charges under the juvenile system though,
Right.
and I was later sued civilly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got hit twice then.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. hmm
Okay. And did you have to serve any time or no time?
I um all in all, I ended up doing, like, I think it was around 8 months in the juvenile system, while everything, the court proceedings was going on. So I was held for Yeah, 8 months,
Okay.
and
And then they gave you. So how much was your restitution in the actual criminal case?
mm, a lot, a lot,
Like over 1,000
thousands,
or
thousands of dollars.
20,000?
Um,
Over 20,000?
well over that, well over that.
And
Put
then
it
they
like
came.
this: this
And then they
happened.
came back after you again for. I'm just trying to get a ballpark. I'm not trying to really get. I'm just
I'll
trying to get
say
a
this:
feel.
I paid. mm, I don't want to say the exact amount, but let's just say over
No
50,
part.
over 50,
Oh, okay.
well over that.
Okay. I
Okay.
mean, yeah. No, I would imagine. Like I don't know what you do for a living, but as a kid, it was probably hard. Being 18, a young adult,
Hmm.
that was probably hard to pay. But I would imagine they didn't take it all. You didn't have to. Like they didn't like. How did that? Actually, let me ask. How did that work? Did you have to
Well,
garnish your wages, or
it
did you?
happened. Okay, so happened, uh, when it first happened, I did the criminal part first, right? So
Right.
I had to go pay like the court fees and all of that. Even when
Right.
you a juvenile, I don't know about Illinois where you at or any, but I know the state I lived in at the time. I had to pay the court costs, so that was one part of it. And then I was on probation, but I
Hmm.
wasn't on regular probation. I was on. I had like special conditions, like um,
You didn't have to
uh,
check in. You just didn't have to. You
no,
had
I
to abide
did.
by. Oh,
I
you
did
did. Oh,
the
wow.
the parole probation the probation and parole back, you know, at that time it was like they would do both. They could come to my house any time of day, any time of night,
Oh, wow.
take my urine. I had an ankle monitor on for a
Oh, so this was
substantial
the real
period of
deal
time.
then.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And so the the that was the first part of it.
Okay.
Then came the civil part.
Okay.
And at that time, uh, they wanted to even like they couldn't take it from my biological mother.
Oh, the restitution. Okay.
No, they couldn't take it from her because they would have. She just didn't have the funds. So they thought they were going to try to get the money from my adoptive parents, and they were like, which I wasn't even aware that they could do this, but I guess the person, the per, uh, there was some people involved, and they was like, we're gonna get it either way. So what they did was, which I didn't even know you could do this, but they went and they got a judgment against me.
Against you.
Hmm.
Right. Of course. Yeah. That's what I was.
So
Because at the time you did this, you were how old?
I was under 18.
Oh, were you like just under 18? Or were you
Um,
like
I
way under?
was I was under 16.
Okay. Yeah.
I was under 16.
So because I would imagine because you mentioned you had foster parents, right?
Adopted parents.
Adoptive parents. I don't see how they could have gotten money from your mom, your biological mother, because she wasn't your legal guardian. You know what I mean? So
Well, they tried.
they tried. Yeah, no, that would have been too crazy. That would have been. I want to say that would have been unfair to her because here. Well, it depends
Well,
on I
I
guess
get why they
under the
tried.
conditions, but I
Hold
think
on,
if you
let me back up for a second. Let me back up real quick because there's one part that I like left out. Okay, the reason why they tried to go after my biological mother was because I was still legally under. I was still legally with my adopted mother, but I had an open like adoption where I still had contact with not so much my biological mom, but just that side of her family, you know?
I see. So it wasn't a full
And
adoption,
so
basically.
I was kind of like, when I at first I was like, I got adopted, and then I was back and forth. I would still come and visit, and I kind of just, I came in. I just were if I wanted to be, you know, with like my mom's side of the family, my biological mom. Sometimes I would stay, and then I would come, and that's just how it was. It was an open door, like
I got it.
but
I got it.
legally, for legal purposes, I was under the care.
Of the adoptive parents. I got it. So
Yes.
did they get all of the civil restitution first and then they started the civil, or they started the civil like immediately after the
Um, from from what I can remember, I remember. Okay, I remember the legal stuff going on for. They let me out after like 8 months, and then they sent me to some alternative like school type of program. But I went home every day. But I was there for like a year, and while I was on the probation and stuff, that lasted like maybe 2 years,
Mhm.
because two years.
And by that
So
time they had collected all the restitution?
they had already, which unbeknownst to me, they had started the process. I didn't
Right.
know at first. I didn't know until a letter came in the mail.
Right.
And where they got it wrong was they sent it to my biological
Mom.
mother's house.
Right.
And then my grandfather contacted, and that whole thing. And they were trying to see, they couldn't figure out, which by the time they figured it out, my adopted parents, because of the situation, they had to get like lawyers involved, because they're like, okay, well, we know you got this, uh you know uh
This
I
dark
think
cloud hanging over your head.
I think their house at the time was probably worth maybe somewhere between, I don't know, probably half a million or more.
Oh wow. Oh wow.
So they
So
still
so
credit.
so so the total amount with the civil and the criminal was
And a
about
criminal,
50.
it was more than that, way more than that.
So the
I'm just
criminal
saying.
was 50. The criminal was 50 then. About 50
Yeah,
ballpark.
because, well, you got to think about the lawyers,
Right.
the court costs,
Well, I'm
all of
not
that.
talking about that. Oh, so they
That's not counting the restitution part.
yeah. Yeah, just the restitution part.
Um, if I
Like
could remember correctly, maybe 100,
ooh, Jesus.
somewhere like
Jesus Christ.
130. Yeah, 130. You figure I had to repay the medical costs,
Right.
physical therapy, all of that. Yeah,
Oh wow.
it was that was a very bad and dark time in my life.
Wow.
And
So hold on a
yeah,
second. So there was about 100 total for the civil and the
so
restitution, or just 100 for the
okay, so
restitution?
for the restitution, what ended up getting paid out, as far as the just the civil part of it, was like around 120.
And that's the criminal restitution.
Criminal restitution, what I had to pay. But the other stuff, the lawyers, see, that part, now the lawyer part and everything, I will say that between my grandfather and my adopted family, they really came through for me on that part.
Okay. Huh. That's
And
an interesting story. So I
yeah.
I would imagine that they would have given you a chance to pay it over time,
Oh,
but I guess
I did pay it overtime. I did
okay.
pay it overtime. I actually I actually hmm, I stopped paying it. I paid it off, I want to say maybe 7 years ago.
Oh, okay. Okay. So
I mean,
it's
I
definitely
mean,
all behind
to
you
be
now. So
completely honest with you, um, they wanted to. See, because I went to college and then I went to school. Then I had I was doing that, but they wanted to like. But I was smart enough because I knew. I'm gonna be honest with you. I was smart enough because I knew I had that hanging over my head. I knew not to put really anything of value in my name.
Oh, of course, and that's what. So I'm glad we're having this conversation because when we look at
So
Kenneth Petty,
when I had my townhouse, right, you know what I did? What I did was me and my friend, we
we
were
don't want you to incriminate yourself.
no. I mean, put it like this: my friend's townhouse, you can figure it out. I lived in,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
hmm
I mean, but the main thing is that you paid it off, right? You
yeah,
paid your
yeah.
restitution, right? So now, I mean, this was so. So let me ask you a question. So when you started working, did they actually garnish your checks and anything like that, or did they just leave it up to you to pay as you go?
Okay, so let me speak about that part. They couldn't do a wage garnishment because I always paid on it.
Smart.
I
And how
always
much would
paid
you
on it.
pay? How much would you pay?
Um, well, one thing I did was when I
Like you would pay on it monthly, weekly, yearly?
monthly,
Okay.
every month I would send them a payment.
Okay.
And what I would do is I would say, okay, I owe this much, I'm gonna send this much. So when I got my first job where I was making
One
really
second. One second. One second. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
okay, so I was working in I had one job where I made that was kind of like on the books. Yeah, it was like corporate job, and I made good money doing that.
Right.
And then I had my other job where I kind of worked under the table, you know. Or no, I'm not gonna say I work under the table. I really work for myself.
Right.
So what I would
And what
do
kind of work were you
is,
doing for yourself?
I'll just say I was a private contractor.
Okay.
I can't get into that for legal
Right,
purposes.
right. No, I got you. No, I'm always interested to hear,
Yeah.
the different types of hustles, people are doing
It
to,
was it
make
was
money.
it was it was pretty it was serious work. It was I liked it, but
It was so you were doing professional work for
yeah,
yourself. Okay, it
I
wasn't a
was
hustle.
working in corporate America, corporate banking to be
Okay,
exact, and then I was doing my other job, and actually the job that I was doing outside of in addition to working in corporate banking, it was more it paid more, but when you start looking at like health insurance and different things that and you know and I was trying to get further my education, and working that job allowed me to do that. It was paid for because I that corporate job offered me the opportunity to go back to school and not have to pay back student loans and things like that. So
right.
that's why I did that. So I would just send them a certain amount of money every
Every
month.
and you were consistent with it then, right?
I never, from the time it became really my responsibility, and basically that was when I turned 18, because when you're 18, they can't go after your
Your
parents and stuff no
parents.
more.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
And yeah, my adopted parents, they told me, they said, listen, they said, whatever you do, they smart, they're smart, career oriented people. Both, you know, they work, I'll just say, in uh, the mental health field. They're
Okay,
very high on the totem pole in the mental health
okay,
field. You
okay.
know, their combined experience is more than 70 years.
Okay. Okay. So
So
when you hit 18,
they
they just
knew
said,
how to
"Hey,
tell me like, okay, make sure this is how much it is. Make sure you pay at least this every month. And if you don't have the call, don't let us like don't not pay it. And they
right,
told that's when I learned about how, people can come and garnish your wages and stuff.
right,
So I always paid, and sometimes I would pay more. But one thing I did was I also, because they did try to bring me back to court at one point because they wanted to do a wage garnishment. So what I did was I made a deal on my tax returns,
uh huh."
and
They could
so
just take the
I
tax
just let them
returns.
take the tax returns every year. I don't think I think I've only I just recently start getting tax returns mm, like right after that was paid off. So it hasn't been that long that I've gotten tax returns. But there's ways around everything. I always tell people, if you're in a situation like that, make sure you just pay something. Don't ever
Right.
ignore the mail. Don't even if you're dealing with whether it's a civil situation, whether it's like, student loan, because I still had a uh
Student
loans.
loans.
I still have student loans. I
Right.
paid for my own education. You know, I got some help, but I felt like, my biological parents, that's a whole nother story. They
Right.
I ain't even gonna get into that, but
Right.
you
No, no,
know,
I feel you.
with
When it comes down to education, I was kind of lucky, in the sense that I was a computer science major, and when I graduated from school, I was making money hand over fist. So I was actually lucky all the way around because when I went to school, I think my family they paid for about like maybe the first year, and then after that, I was destitute for about a year, and then I was like, well, I'm just going to join the Army Reserves, for extra money. And I actually did that. And, like my immediate family, they were, dirt poor. So they couldn't really help me out
yeah,
with anything. Right. So I think I was fortunate in the sense that I was able to join the Army. And when I joined the Army Reserves, that is, I was getting extra pay because they had this thing where I forget what it was. I think there was like the normal pay, and then you would get. Oh, I had the GI Bill. That's what it was. So I
hmm
think with the so I had the GI Bill and I had something else. And long story short, the Army ended up screwing me because they didn't actually pay all my student loans. But it really didn't matter because I was lucky enough to be in computer science, and information technology was taking off, so I made a lot of money. So I basically paid all my student loans off on my own. So so I was lucky
yeah.
in that sense.
I wanted to go into the Navy, but I went through everything, and then I had a when I was a kid, I had a I had got hit by a car,
Oh wow!
and yeah, I got hit by a car, and it like my left foot, the car like rode over my left foot and like my leg,
Right.
and it crushed the bones in my foot.
Oh man.
So yeah, that messed up my foot. I mean, it just like I couldn't pass like certain tests.
Right.
But as
Well,
far as
that 2 mile run was going to be a motherfucker
oh
for you. That's
yeah,
for sure.
yeah, like even and now that I'm a little older, the cold, like the weather and stuff. Oh my goodness,
Yeah. Yeah.
wintertime is serious. But you know, I always say I've had the best of both worlds because I can you know in the beginning I came from uh just some very very hard and difficult times,
Situation. Right.
and then you know uh my biological family, that's a whole situation. But then my adopted family, to me they're like my real family, you
Right.
know um and a lot of people in my biological family don't like me to say that, but I was always taught, you know, it's like when I would go to visit like my biological family, I always saw people act irrational and off of emotions, and and there was always some, you know, scheming, skit like that, and
Right.
then
But hold on a second. I want to get back to this restitution thing because it's kind of relevant when it comes down to Kenneth Petty, because one of the things people are saying is that Nicki Minaj is going to win, but is she really? Because even if she wiggles
even if
out,
she wins, she's gonna lose because they're gonna go after him, right?
exactly.
And she got to decide: do she want to keep him out of jail? So either way, it's a win-win for Jen. It don't matter if she get it from Nikki directly or she get it from Nikki on his behalf. Either way, Nikki's going to cough up a bag.
Right.
So, when I hear people say that, and I've been a person who, like I just told you, I've been the subject of a civil suit, which it was against me.
Right.
But I've also,
So hold on a second. So now after the criminal thing, they came back and then they sued you for legal fees and things of that nature.
well, the legal, I got sued for the fee pertaining to the, you know,
The criminal
the
action.
the criminal part, like the people who that got hurt
Right.
in the
Right.
situation. But the legal, it wasn't so much like the lawyer and all of that. That stuff I didn't really have to worry about too much. It was the other stuff. And I felt like my adoptive parents, they had between my adoptive parents biologically, they had 9 kids of their own between the two.
Oh wow.
And then let me see, one, two, three. It was 6 kids that they adopted, and they had did so much for me, and I was not an easy child to deal with.
Mm.
I was like rebellious in a sense. I wouldn't say disrespectful, but I was somewhat, yeah, I was like rebellious, and so I kind of probably took them through a little bit. You understand what I'm saying? And when it came down to like us going to school, don't get me wrong, they helped me a lot. They helped me with a lot of things.
Right. So
And
one second.
I felt like I
Venvir is saying that Kenny is listed as Nikki's manager, so he should have some income since it was a court request in order for him to travel. Man, look, I hope that's not the case because if this dude,
ooh,
oh my God, they finna get into them
mm,
pockets. Oh, they finna get in them
Nikki might
pockets.
just try to settle this. I really think for her career, for her just for,
I don't think necessarily for her career because, like, what is there left for her to do? But just for
no, no, no,
for
no, no.
peace of mind, you know what I mean?
I would say for her career because I think, well, when I say
Her
her
career is
career,
almost
what I
over
what
with,
I
though, don't
really
you think?
what I really mean, let me say this, let me back up. What I really meant to say was her legacy. Settle this, don't what I'm saying is in a situation like this, right?
I'm listening.
And I remember, see, I don't want to share too much about this situation, but let me tell you something. I was told in the situation, I was sat down when the civil part came up, and it was like, okay, they, I was, I was talked to, and I was sat down, and I said, look, okay, remember I told you I did a job outside of corporate, and that was a job what I was doing.
Right.
If I could have went and I could have fought this
Hmm.
civil thing because initially I was the victim, but it started out that way. But then things happened, and then
All
all
right.
the
You know what?
people
Hold on a
involved.
second. I gotta. I mean, I'm not forcing you to tell your story, but
Okay, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this. I'm not going to go into too
to
many
me,
details.
I'll tell you. This is what it sounds like. It sounds like maybe there was some abuse, and
Mm-hmm.
then you
Mm-hmm.
retaliated, and maybe the abuser got hurt.
It went to the extreme. It went to extreme levels.
Okay. Did you plead
I was
guilty or
I
you were
was
found guilty?
well. I mean, I was attacked,
Right.
and it didn't have anything. basically somebody that I know did something. Somebody that I was around
Right.
did something to some people because uh, the people, the person who did this to these people, they couldn't be found, and they knew that I was connected to that person in some way because they seen us together.
Okay.
The people decided to retaliate against me, and like I said, I started out the victim, but as the judge would have it, and the prosecutor and whoever else, I became the victimizer.
Okay.
If that
So
makes
they
sense to you.
basically said you and the other person did whatever.
Okay, so yeah, it was like, okay, they attacked me, right? So I
Right.
defended myself, but I guess they felt like I defended myself
You
to
went too
extremes
far.
level. They felt like I went too far, like it didn't need to go as far as it did. But I don't know what they expect when you have mind you, and I'm the minor in this situation.
Right. Right. Right.
When you have six grown adults storm a house and start attacking a minor. But whatever.
Wow, that's crazy. You know what? Maybe fighting the criminal part. I don't know. I don't know.
But
So
what happened
you say you
was
basically took a plea deal
when
on the
when
criminal part, right?
no, I just the
You just
only the
you
thing
just
uh,
lost.
I'm gonna tell you two things that, and I don't want to put these names out there, but I'm gonna tell
No,
you I
never put
have
anybody's name out.
no, I would never do that. I know my, like I said, my adoptive parents are career people. They know doctors, lawyers, judges, people in the criminal, in the legal, not criminal. I mean, I say criminal, but in the legal field. So they pull some strings, and I was
Okay,
able to
resolve it.
uh, resolve the criminal part. But the
So, but
thing
I
with
mean, but how was that done though? Was that like a plea deal, or they basically
I
dropped the
listen,
charges?
listen. Let me tell you. You know what? I'm gonna tell you exactly. I promise you, I said this. They wanted me to write a letter and to apologize, and I looked, not the person that eventually helped my adopted parents and me out of with the criminal part. It was judge. I told that judge, I said, I'm not apologizing for nothing. I said, because I'm not sorry for what I did. I said, I ain't
Right,
doing it. This was at at the arraignment. The first, like, when I in the court at the arraignment, I told him, I said, I'm not apologizing. He said,
right,
excuse me? I said, you heard what I said.
right.
He said, get her out of my courtroom. Get her.
So they
He,
were going to give you a smack on the wrist right there. Right
yeah,
there, you want to
he
get a
wanted
smack
to.
on the wrist.
He actually, that judge wanted to give me, because of the seriousness of it, he wanted to give me 5 to 10 years
Wow,
for it.
wow, that's crazy.
But I
Yeah, you
decided.
wouldn't have actually. To me, what it sounds like they were asking you to apologize. It sounded like you wouldn't have gotten any time.
I don't know. I was enraged. I was
Right.
still like, when I went, I was still out for blood. You know,
So an
no, like
apology was
I,
impossible.
I was like, what? Apology? Like, I was offended. I looked at that. I mean, I looked him right in his eyes, and he said, "So are you gonna?" I said, "You heard what I said."
Right, right. No, when no
Oh,
apology
he
coming.
almost, if he could have probably grabbed me up and probably strangled me himself, he would have. I never seen, and he was a Italian. He turned red, like bloodshot red. I said, I'm not apologizing. He said, get her out of my courtroom. I don't want to see her in my courtroom. Don't bring her back. And he literally made me wait 3 months for another court date.
Wow.
He said, he said, I don't want to see her face back in my courtroom, because I had the arraignment, and then I had the other court dates. They had them lined up. So I probably could have gotten out, maybe probably in a group home or something like, like a residential treatment,
Right.
whatever.
Job
But
corps or
when I
something like
went
that.
off, not Job Corps, but when I went off on the judge and refused to apologize, and they wanted me to write a letter, and I wasn't gonna do that because I
Right.
wasn't sorry. I really wasn't. And one thing about me, I'm very, if I don't want to do something, I'm not going to do it. You can't twist my arm and force me, threaten me. I'm not going to do it. So, but when it came down to the civil part of the situation, I'll tell you what the advice that was given to me. I, looking back, I feel like it was good advice. Uh, but maybe you might think different. So basically, I was sat down and I was told, like, look, we already kind of, I was on probation. I had to go to intensive like therapy, and oh my goodness, they wouldn't even let me go into a regular school for like just lasted a couple years. But they were saying if you fight the criminal, like from the civil part, they was like, this could drag on for years. You're this age, by the time you turn 18, this could be off your record, and
Mm,
you could have a clean slate.
mm,
And they were saying, and I was just talking about different things that I wanted to do because now I'm in this like alternative school, like program, like residential program, like, but it's still school too. And they was like, oh, you're so smart, and what do you want to do? And I'm telling them and writing my goals and different things like that. And I still remember this teacher to this day. She said, you know, that I had a lot of potential, and you know, and they really really pushed me. And then and they were like, if this drags on, then it's going to become public. It's going to become public information, and you might not be able to do have the career that you want. And one of the things that I wanted to do, because I would have been at that point, just the details of what happened, it just wouldn't have been good.
right.
It would have been a part of my public record.
Mm,
I wanted to go into like I said, the Navy, but because of the situation with my foot, I couldn't. But also I worked with children for
right.
quite a period of time too. So that's, imagine, you're trying to work with children and they go run your background and you got that level of violence in your
Right. And that
background.
pops up. Right. No, I
So
get it. So what was the solution though?
so I just went ahead, I ate the judgment.
Oh,
I
so you
didn't,
you took a you
I just ate it.
you pleaded. You pleaded out.
I didn't plead anything. I just ate it. The thing is this: when somebody
Oh, so
filed a
they
motion,
found you guilty then.
I never responded to the judgment.
Oh wow. So hold on a second. You didn't
Hold
do a
on, let me
no.
let me let me say. Okay, so they filed it and everything, right? But
Right.
when they filed it initially, they sent it to my biological mother's address, which they shouldn't
Well,
have.
hold on a second. Whoa. Hold on a second. Let's take a step back. So you got a default judgment, is what you're saying?
Basically, it was like this. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, because
Okay. Because you
I
didn't you
could have.
didn't you didn't have a hearing before a
I had
jury.
the opportunity to respond to it because
Okay.
I could have went to court. Listen, they served me at the wrong address. I could have went to court and said, "No, this is not my." They served it wrong, right?
Okay.
And then I could have went through the legal process of what a civil case entails. But when I was given that uh, information and thinking about my future and everything, I
You just
decided
attempted
not
to
to.
judge it.
It was a default judgment.
So hold on a second. Because hold on a second, because this is about to get crazy in a second. So let me get this straight. They sent the judgment to the wrong address,
Yeah,
and you never did anything about that. You just simply paid, right?
yeah.
Okay. All right. So this is crazy. Um, all right. So this is
Because like I told you, at that time I'm a minor, so I took the advice that was given to me.
right. So hold on a second.
Now, maybe now, if it happened and I was an adult, I probably would have responded to it. And I don't know. I don't remember. I mean, it's been a while. It's been a while, and I know it was sent to the house. I don't know if it sat for a while or because
Well,
the
hold on a
thing.
second. Hold on a second. Just stop. All right. So first off, I'm not a lawyer, right? You know that, right? I'm
I
not
don't
a
know.
lawyer. Right. No, I'm not. I'm definitely not a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just some guy on the internet who reads legal documents. Right. And, I do it for education and entertainment purposes only. Right. So I'm not a lawyer. I don't have any legal training. I don't, I've never gone to law school. I don't have any type of certification whatsoever as a lawyer. Now, with that said, um, in my personal opinion, you don't need to be a lawyer to read and understand the law. So I have a video series called Escaping a Court Judgment. And in that video series, we talk about personal jurisdiction and we talk about subject matter jurisdiction. And some courts recognize different tiers of personal jurisdiction if I'm describing this right. For example, in federal court, personal jurisdiction is basically notice and opportunity to be heard. If you didn't get notice and opportunity to be heard, then the court doesn't have jurisdiction to make a judgment on the case. They don't have a right to make a judgment on the case. So if they sent the court summons to the wrong address and you never received a copy of it, then the court doesn't have personal jurisdiction. So therefore, that judgment that's hanging over your head is void. Now, like I said, I don't know New York that well. I don't know anything about New York at
No, it
all, right?
wasn't in New York. It wasn't in New York.
Well, where's it at?
It was in New Jersey.
Oh, okay. I mean, I don't. Same thing. For me, same thing. I don't know anything about New Jersey, but some jurisdictions they recognize. I think I want to say different tiers of personal jurisdiction, but I could be mistaken to be called something else. And that's whereas personal jurisdiction is where you're served and they send the documents to you. And actually, service is when they actually send the documents to you via a process server, right? Because that's one of the things I got into with this case with Nicki. They send documents to you via a process server, and then that process server will be able to, go to court and basically on oath say that he personally gave you these documents. And then there is such a situation where if they serve you but they give you the wrong documents, then that is also considered a violation of personal jurisdiction. But you know what? It sounds like what's happened in all this is that police eventually showed up, and the police showed up, and the police gave you a court date, and then or you were arrested, right? And then you went before a judge. Is that sort of what happened?
Well, I was arrested at the scene of the incident
Okay, all right, never
when
mind.
it happened.
Yeah, I was going to say yeah. So and then you just didn't go to the the court hearings,
I went to the
like that
criminal
final
court
that
stuff, the criminal
final.
court stuff, the criminal stuff.
Oh, okay.
I had no choice because I was arrested and held. I had no choice but to go to court, except for when the
And
judge.
you didn't have a jury trial. You just had a trial with the judge.
Yeah, I didn't have a jury trial.
So the judge put the judgment in.
Yeah, it wasn't
So
no jury.
okay, so when you say you say you when they sent the documents to the house, they sent it to the wrong house. That was for civil, right?
That was for the civil, not the criminal.
Okay, so
The
yeah,
civil.
so that judgment. Okay, so everything I just said
But the
could
incident, hold on. The incident, right, happened in the same, didn't happen where my adoptive parents resided at. It happened where my biological mother resided.
Okay. Right. So, but the only thing I'm getting to is that when they sent you the court documents for the civil case, they sent it to the wrong address, correct?
They sent it to the wrong address.
Yeah. So that judgment is void. That judgment is 100% void. But I can see how you wouldn't want to revisit this because you kind of, in my personal opinion, right? Like I said, I'm not a
Yeah,
lawyer,
I was trying to
right?
try to not say too
And I and
much,
and I
but
definitely don't give legal advice.
yeah.
But that
No,
judgment,
no, no. I understand what you're saying,
yeah,
and I know
that
some of what
judgment,
you're
in my
saying was right
opinion,
because I didn't want to get, like I said, I didn't want to go too deep into the situation.
right? No,
But
I got you. I got you.
the,
I feel you.
technically, you're right. They didn't serve me at the
Correct address.
right address. That was
So
not my
that
address.
judgment is no good. It's void. If you
But
wanted to,
because of the situation, when I was told, like, basically, I'm trying to do all of these things because now I've been, you know,
I get it. I understand what you
yeah,
already explained it. You had goals in your life, so you just said, forget it. I'm just going to pay.
yeah,
But what I'm telling you is that if I were in your situation, I would think about whether or not it's worth it to go back and vacate that judgment. But it probably wouldn't be worth it because then you would kind of drag this whole thing up again, and then I'd be in you'd be in a situation where you have to relive all this stuff again. So it probably wouldn't be worth it,
yeah.
and
It's
to have
not.
them, yeah, it wouldn't be worth it. But to me, what it sounds like is that judgment is 100% void. But hey, listen, it's been we've been on here for about an hour now, and I don't know if you were paying attention to my poker session, but I was up about $20, and then I lost all of it, and I'm down by 18. What is it? 11 $11 now. So I'm in a hole, like actually
Do you
15 to
play
16.
online like real? Did you play like when you play online poker? Do you play for like real money?
Yeah, that was real money. That was
Oh, okay,
100%
okay,
real
okay.
money. But I mean, I'm not serious about it. It's just like whenever I want to mess around, I'll play for some, like, maybe I'll play for like $25 or something like that
Oh, okay.
once in a blue moon. Like, I definitely don't take online play serious. Sometimes I'll go to casino. I'm a casual player. I'm not serious with the stuff. I used to be a long time ago, but then I realized there's no way you can get ahead, playing poker. So, but anyway, look, it's been a pleasure talking to you,
It's nice
Shakira
talking to
Muhammad.
you too.
Yeah, definitely.
I just with this thing with Nikki, I just want people to stop trying to act like she's a victim and her husband's a victim, like he did something 15 or no 20 something years ago, and all of a sudden Jennifer just woke up one day and just decided to come after them, because that's not the case. They brought all of this on himself. He didn't register, and everything that happened after his decision not to register for whatever reason, we can speculate. We really don't know, but this is the result of his doing and nobody else's.
Right. You know what? So I was about to get off. We'll wait and see if Sabrina wants to hop on and say anything about this whole situation, and have a quick conversation with Sabrina. If she doesn't want to hop on, I think I'm going to call it and go and do some other things. Sabrina, if you want to hop on, I posted the StreamYard link. It takes a second to download it. You don't have to show your face or anything. You can come on and just speak your mind. But getting back to Nicki. No, you can hop on. We'll chat for about 15 minutes, and then I'll 15 20 minutes or whatever, and I'll shut it down. But my take on this, I don't think that Nicki Minaj is a victim. I think that she has made some mistakes, and I think the mistakes that she made is that she listened. I don't know where she got her version of the story from, but to me it looks like Nicki started all this. She started it all, and that's my opinion, right? Because when you look at the allegations in the lawsuit, it looks like Nicki went to social media. And let me see if I can actually pull out the lawsuit just so that we're on the same page here. But it looks like, for whatever reason, Nicki went to social media and she started telling different versions of the story. And these are the allegations that Jennifer actually makes. So this is not me, making stuff up. And to me, it just seems like Jennifer was pretty consistent with her version of the story. Here, let me see if I can actually share my screen. Uh, did I kick somebody off? Uh, Look up DJ Academics threaten on YouTube, and look up here. Let me show this. Look up DJ Academics threaten on YouTube, and look up Nicki in the lime green hair after this. So let me see if I can actually share my screen real fast. You just click the link. Just click the link. Whatever platform you're on, just click the link. But either way, I'll give my quick spiel. If you want to hop on, Sabrina, you can hop on. If not, I can understand. But let me share my screen here. So here's a lawsuit. And I think this all started with Nicki, right? Besides the actual allegations, right? If I'm reading the timeline correctly, you have, one second here, you have the actual allegation, and then you have this thing with Nicki. And let me stop sharing for a second. Yo, Sabrina, if you want to hop on, all you have to do is just click that link, and then you'll be able to download StreamYard, whatever you. I can't get on, but it's okay. I appreciate your thoughts. Give me a voice. Okay, so I'll just go through what I think really quickly, and then I'm just going to shut it down. But basically, if I share my screen and we look at the lawsuit, it says in November 2019, defendant Nicki Minaj or defendant Minaj did a show called Shade or No Shade on Queen Radio. Actually, hold on, let me start up here. So it says, toward the end of November, the defendant Minaj posted another picture. That's not where it starts. All right, so in 2016, plaintiff moved to Atlanta. In 2018, defendant Minaj posted that she was doing a turkey giveaway. That's not it either. On November 25th, 2018, defendant Minaj posted a picture of her and the defendant, Petty. That's not it either. So it basically starts on line 78. Towards the end of November, defendant Minaj posted another picture of her and the defendant. Petty replied to commented stating, oh, actually, Petty. I'm sorry, I got this mixed up. So Petty replied to the picture, commenting, Kenny was 15, she was 16, and in a relationship, but go AWF internet. And then they provide an exhibit. So this is the actual evidence that they're providing that, these guys are posting images on the internet. And basically by you coming out, posting these images saying that Kenny was 15, she was 16, and in a relationship. So you're basically providing a alternate version of the story. And of course, Jennifer doesn't agree with this. Jennifer basically says that they weren't in a relationship. She was on the way to school, and basically Kenny accosted her, and he basically pulled a weapon out, put it to her back, and basically forced her to go into, this apartment or whatever. Right. So it's a totally different version of the story that we're hearing here. And it's being posted on the internet in November around, 2018. Right. And then it goes, as a result of the defendant's Nicki Minaj's post, plaintiff was sought after for comments, seeing no choice other than to defend the truth. Plaintiff recorded an interview with a YouTube blogger giving her side of the story. The plaintiff thought that would be the end of it. I think she actually made a mistake here. This is my opinion, because when she came out and she basically posted her version of the chain of events on the internet, she's opened herself up for people to come out and comment on this whole situation, right? So I think that was kind of a mistake on Jennifer's part, but nonetheless, she's doing it because she's trying to get the record straight. and basically she's being forced to relive this whole incident. And then it goes on. In November 2019, the defendant Minaj did a show called Shade No Shade on Queen Radio. She repeated the same comment that the defendant Petty was 15 years old, but now added that he was wrongly accused. And she goes, he did not have bail money. And she said that the plaintiff had written a letter recanting her statement, but would face 90 days in jail if the plaintiff had done so, which is all false, right? So Jennifer is basically saying, you keep coming out and you're posting all this stuff on social media, and all this stuff is false. So this portion right here is Nicki Minaj's involvement in the direct involvement of intentional infliction of emotional distress, because this lady is a victim, and you're forcing her to basically come out into the public eye and relive this tragedy over and over and over. Well, you didn't have to do that. And my whole question is, where's Nicki getting this version of the story from? Nicki wasn't there. Nicki basically has no way of knowing whether or not they were in a relationship. She has no way of knowing, these details. And she's basically putting this stuff out there. I think she's believing. Me personally, I think she's listening to Kenneth, who is a convicted rapist, and I'm sorry, I said the R word, a convicted R person, and he's also a murderer. And she's taking his statements word for word, and she's posting it out on the internet without trying to fact find. So this instance right here is all she needs to implicate Nicki for intentional infliction of emotional distress. That's my only argument. And I think let me see what Sabrina's saying. Let me see here. I heard that broadcast on Queen Radio. Okay, so you heard it, right? So that's all she needs, right? I mean, it would have been one thing if, actually, to be honest with you, I'm gonna take a step back. I'm going to double back, and I'm going to contradict myself, because here I think Jennifer makes a mistake. Here it says, as a result of the defendant Nicki Minaj post, the plaintiff was sought after for comment, seeing no choice than to defend the truth. The plaintiff recorded an interview with a YouTube vlogger giving her side of the story. Plaintiff thought that would be the end of it. So whenever because before Nicki Minaj made the post and before she responded to the post, she was basically a private person. And as a private person, that's your own personal business, right? And after she responded, in my personal opinion, she made it okay for the internet to essentially respond to her comments, right?
Are you talking about Jennifer or
Jennifer? Unfortunately, okay. Right? Because think about it. Before when Nicki made the first post, that was basically Nicki in the wrong. But when Jennifer came out and she responded to it, you're putting yourself out there in the public eye. You agree? Because you have the right to privacy
now,
but you lose that right once you basically come out and make yourself a public person. And because she made herself a public person, go ahead.
Did you listen to why Jennifer said she even came out and showed her face?
No, I didn't catch that part, but I mean, it does say here that she wanted to set the record straight. But why did she come out and show?
But that, and I mean, at that point, it was a lot going on behind the scenes,
right?
And there was, threats and different things being made, and you got somebody saying, "Oh, you're a white girl," and
that's
and the third,
right.
I can look at it.
It's tricky.
I can kind of look at it like from your point of view, but I could kind of also look at it like if I'm getting threatened, if I'm having.
Well, she wasn't threatened at that point. Think about it.
No.
I'm just going by the chain of events in her actual claim. But think
Are you
about
talking
this.
about what's in the lawsuit, or I'm speaking
I'm looking
from
at what's in the lawsuit.
I'm speaking from like what was going on social media. This is what I'm trying to say. Everything that
Well, I
went
can only assume that she listed the chain of events in order. If it's out of order, then
well,
I don't know.
I know that she was being threatened and harassed
Right. That's down later. That's down later, I think.
because she and that's when she, even when she first started getting threatened and harassed, and it wasn't just Nicki, that came out and said something. There were other bloggers. You had somebody like Tasha K saying stuff. You had the Black Tea blog chick. There was like other people, and they were trying to, or digging up information, saying things. And I get what you're saying, and I do agree with you to an extent, but also I'm trying to put myself in Jennifer's shoes, you know?
Well, here's the thing. Hold on a second. Here's the thing. So let's say I'm a victim, right? I'm a victim of an assault, right? An R assault. And nobody knows about this. Then I decide to come out onto social media and I decide to start talking about my victim. I mean, me being a victim of an R assault, and then I start to identify the people who basically assaulted me. Then at that point, I myself am saying it's okay for people to respond to my story and they can either support my story or criticize me because of my story. Because once you come out, you are no longer a private individual, and it's difficult. It's probably going to be difficult to claim harassment because you came out. So because you came out, then you give people the right to respond. You give, because it's a tricky situation because everyone has freedom of speech. So I'm not sure how this is going to play out because you have this situation where first Nicki comes out, right? On November 25th, 2018, defendant Minaj posted a picture of her and the defendant Petty, the man who basically assaulted the plaintiff at night point. It appeared that they were dating. In the photo, they were throwing up gang signs. Okay. And then towards the end of November, defendant Minaj posted another picture of her and the defendant Petty and replied to a comment stating Kenny was 15, she was 16 in a relationship, but go WFK internet, right? And then she gives the exhibit. And then she goes, this was picked up by every publication, tabloid, internet, iHeartRadio, USA Today, bloggers, YouTube, so on and so forth, right? Um, so I think she made a mistake, to be honest with you. And then she goes, as a result of the defendant Minaj post, the plaintiff was sought after for comment, seeing no choice than to defend the truth. The plaintiff recorded an interview with the YouTube blogger, giving her side of the story. I think line 17 was a mistake on Jennifer's part. I do. I support Jennifer, right? I support her. I think that what happened to her in the past actually happened. I don't know why people are trying to come back and say, "Oh, well, he didn't do that, this and the other." Look, he was convicted. Plain and simple. Period. He was convicted. So there's no way you can debate that, right? And I think even someone else, I think Vanderveer said that Kenneth is suing New York to get off the registry, but he's not suing to vacate his plea deal or his plea, right? So I just think that the guy basically pleaded guilty, and that was it. But the problem here is, I guess, going to be whether or not you can hold Nicki liable. I think it's probably going to be tough, but she can still do it because Nicki constantly comes out and basically, well, the first post was by Minaj, but I guess Petty commented on it. And then at that point, Nicki comes out and she makes a comment on it. And then she says, defendant Minaj also stated, but, white is right because the plaintiff is biracial. right? So I mean, they taunted her on the internet, right?
Yeah, Nikki,
And
Nikki, listen, Nikki is despicable. Even when it as it pertains to the situation with her brother and at the the 11-year-old at the time, like when she did that, that's what really opened my eyes to her. You know,
now that whole situation was crazy. I don't want to get off on a tangent because I
no,
want
no,
to.
no. I'm not gonna go into, but I'm just saying.
Right.
I seen what she did. I seen the screenshots. I screenshotted this, screen recorded it. It's in my iCloud, and so this stuff, the pictures, the posts, I'm like, I can say how I would have handled it personally. The moment she would have came out on some Queen radio talking that mess she was talking, I wouldn't have. I would have went and I would have talked to a lawyer right then and there. I would have put a stop to it. I probably would have stayed behind the scenes, but at the end of the day, people handle things how they see fit. You
Right.
know, I'm sure we've all I don't know if you said it, but I think a lot of people have said, the Gail King interview was a bad move on, Robert's part. But he felt like at the time it was his life on the line. He needed to do that. I don't think he should have did it. But people, my point is people do what they feel they need to do. Um
She,
at the
I,
time.
yeah, but it's kind of a mistake because, like I said, it is a tough situation. Like you hear these different stories being posted on the internet, different versions of the story being posted on the internet, and I mean, there's definitely a violation on Kenny's part for sure coming out, right? Because when they post the picture, it says toward the end of November, defendant Minaj posted another picture of her and the defendant, and of her and the defendant Petty, and replied, commented, "Oh, actually, no, this is Nicki. I read that wrong." So yeah, Nicki is kind of in the wrong because she initiated all this. She initiated all this, and basically she's telling different versions of the story, which I'm just going to say are lies, right? Allegedly these are lies because obviously Jennifer disagrees with this version of the story, right? And there's no way for Nicki Minaj to know that they were in a relationship at the time, right? There's no way for Nicki to know that. So I think that I think she can still be held accountable for initiating, all this stuff over the internet. She posted the first picture and said that they were in a relationship, and then she goes on Shade or No Shade on Queen Radio, and then she continues on with these alternate versions of the story, which allegedly are lies in my opinion. So yeah, I think the only mistake though is that Jennifer made herself a public person and she made it okay for people to comment on it when she basically commented on it. I think her claim would be
She
much more.
was I
Go
get
ahead.
what you're saying, but Jennifer also stated that and you had this girl's people that was claiming to be before Jennifer ever showed her face. I remember the first time she spoke, and I still have the screen recording. She didn't show her face, but she was
Right.
speaking about the situation. I
Well,
remember
even I,
that.
I wouldn't even done that. I wouldn't even.
I
I
mean,
wouldn't.
I probably wouldn't have either, but I think people do what they feel they need to do. Okay.
So here's the thing. I'll say this is what I believe happened. I have no idea if this is the truth. I think Jennifer was basically lost and she was hopeless. And I believe somehow or another, Tyrone Blackburn, whom, in my personal opinion, is trying to get his feet wet in the celebrity lawyer business, and he probably came across her situation and said, "Hey, look, I'll represent you pro bono. This is my theory. This is not fact. This is not truth. This is simply my theory that I'm alleging." Right. So I think the reason she came out and started speaking is because she was feeling hopeless, and she didn't see any other options, right? She
And it
probably
might it might be a mistake, but I'm not going to
that's what I'm
hold
saying.
you
It was definitely, I
to,
think it's definitely a mistake because
yeah.
when Nikki came out and she started saying these things, I would have just waited until Nikki said enough to hang herself, and then I would have took her straight to court. And then there's no question because then all you have is
But
Nikki constantly coming
did do
back to
you did you hear the information about Nikki, the girl, Jennifer, her family, and how Kenny and her family, her you know the lady who raised her and Kenny's family, they're close. I believe that she felt like she had nothing to do. You had people, and I've heard. I gotta go on my iCloud and gather this stuff up, and maybe I could probably send it to you and show you exactly what I'm talking about. It was people coming out that was Jennifer's family. They was reaching out to Nikki and giving her information, and they were even calling Jennifer a liar. Then it was apparently I gotta go in my iCloud and look, but I took screenshots and screen recordings of people and Jennifer's family, these supposed to be Jennifer's family members, posted up with Nikki in pictures. So I can only imagine, like, yeah, I would have just kept quiet. I would have let her keep talking. I would have never
yeah,
said
just let it
anything,
keep talking, and then at
and
that
I
point
would
you
have,
just sue.
and then I would have just did what I would have had to do legally.
Right.
But you know, I am me, you are you, and Jennifer's Jennifer. I still think, even with um, that mishap, if that's what you want to call it, I still think she has a solid case, and Nikki's gonna have to
I
cough up
think
the
she can.
bag one
I
way or
think
another.
I think she can still win, and I think it's still in Nikki's best interest just to settle because she's going to dump a lot of money in this case trying to defend herself, and she can probably just settle with Jennifer for little or nothing. There's another problem with the case that I guess I have to kind of step back and just kind of acknowledge that a lot of people kind of have a point, right? And that's where we start talking about Black, right? And then it goes on. Black continues to hold on a second. If I can even find it.
You said there's a problem with the case.
With Black.
Oh, okay.
Let me see if I can find it. I'm getting tired too. Uh, it goes a few days after defendant Minaj called the plaintiff, plaintiff's brother called her. All right, hold on a second. All right, she goes to no shade radio. White is right. And then it goes a few days after the arrest, the plaintiff was contacted by an old childhood friend, Black. So this is the part, this is another problem that I think she's going to have in terms of implicating Nikki. And again, I'm tired. I can't remember if this was the only indirect implication for Nikki, but she goes a few days after the arrest, the plaintiff was contacted by an old childhood friend, Black. They caught up, and the topic of the plaintiff's assault came up, to which plaintiff stated she wished it could all just go away forever. And then Black responded, I can make that happen. And then a few days later, Black called her and informed her that the defendant Minaj asked for the plaintiff's phone number and that she had given it to her, right? Let me read this again. After a few days later, Black called her and informed her that the defendant Minaj asked for the plaintiff's phone number and that he had given it to her. Okay, cool. Because I wanted to be clear as to whether or not she gave permission for a phone number to be given to Nikki, and it looks like there was no permission by looking at this lawsuit, right? And then it goes shortly after that, defendant Minaj called the plaintiff, right? So this is a direct. So it goes back and forth because although she made the mistake of going out on social media, now Nicki Minaj is contacting her directly, right? And Jennifer didn't initiate this phone conversation, right?
No.
Right. So then it says shortly after that, defendant Minaj called the plaintiff. During the call, defendant Minaj stated that she heard the plaintiff was willing to help out their situation, and stated that she would fly the plaintiff and her family to Los Angeles. The plaintiff declined this offer. So she didn't solicit Nicki Minaj's. To me, look, reading this lawsuit, it appears she did not solicit Nicki Minaj. I can't even talk. Nicki is constantly going on the internet. She's posting basically lies, right? Allegedly, I'm alleging that they're lies. And then she turns around and basically calls Jennifer, right? And then it says, defendant Minaj then stated that she would send her publicist. So she already said no, right? So now she's persisting. Defendant Minaj then stated that she would send her publicist to meet the plaintiff to craft a statement recanting the plaintiff's assault charge. Plaintiff denies this as well, right? So you have this person who's going on social media telling different versions of the assault, which I'm alleging are lies. And then now this person is contacting you and trying to get you to recant your statement. You tell them no once, and then they continuously barrage you with all these different offers. And then it goes on. Before they get off the phone, the plaintiff said to defendant Minaj, I need you to know, woman to woman, this happened. And this is where I think that all of this could have actually been handled a different way. Because when she said this to Nicki, I think that she was trying to connect with Nicki. And that connection could have been used to say, hey, look, why don't we just go ahead and I kind of think it was the wrong way to actually reach out to her. You should have reached out with a lawyer. But anyway, she was looking for a connection. I think what could have been said was like, look, he is truly sorry for everything that happened, and he wants you to have peace, and he wants to see all of this resolved. We're going to go to court, and we're going to file a petition to pay you restitution. And then that starts the conversation to get him off of the registry. Because like I said in the other video, he was only 3 years away from getting his name off the registry, right? And I think Vanderveer said that he was actually suing to get his name off the registry. But to be honest with you, he can't sue to get his name off the registry because he's 3 years too early, according to the statute, which I think I listed in another video, and I'll try to attach it.
Oh, so he doesn't have to have it on for like a lifetime.
You got to have 30. They're not playing with that. They're not going to let you off early. Why would they like a lot of times when they give you a specific amount of time in the statute, they want that time to be met, right? Now,
okay.
Well, it depends. It depends on his argument for trying to get off the registry. From what Vanderveer said, he's trying to get off the registry. It didn't sound like what Vanderveer was saying is that he filed a lawsuit to vacate his guilty plea. Those are two different things, right? Now, if you come in and you're saying that I want to file a lawsuit to vacate my guilty plea, then yeah, you can do that at any time, right? But if you're filing a lawsuit to say I'm going to get off the registry, then the only thing you can do is that you can ask for, what the lawsuit allows. And the lawsuit basically says it has to be 30 years, and it hasn't been 30 years yet, right? Unless you're making some other argument. I have to see. I wish I'll see if I can get a link to that actual to the actual lawsuit. And he says, Vanderveer says, we saw it and we talked about it already. Watch the replay, like I said. Hey, give me a link. Give me a link, Vanderveer. Give me a link. And then let's see here. So don't say it about it, Troy. Nobody care about no darn Clubhouse or no darn Nicki. If y'all don't like her, why do y'all do so much to see what the F she's doing? And y'all be grown as don't have. I can't even read all that stuff. But
what's she talking about?
I don't know what she's talking about. But basically, my channel is about law, and basically, I blog about stuff like this. I talked about the R. Kelly situation, talked about Bill Cosby, anything that involves law that I think people would be interested in. I talk about it. So that's why I'm talking about the whole situation now. Don't say it about it, Troy. And then Benevere comes back. He says he claimed he never signed the forms to register, but nothing about it. Nothing about he didn't do it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's kind of tricky because, like I said, you have Nicki come out on social media. Then I think it was a mistake that Jennifer actually came out on social media as well. I think that was a mistake. But you still have Nicki constantly harassing her to try to get her to recant the statement, right? So that's going to make the social media posts and the repeated attempts for of Nicki trying to get her to recant the statement is basically going to make Nicki directly liable in this suit. So Nicki is not off the hook on this whole thing.
No.
Nicki has to go to court and she has to defend herself. And I think there's a strong chance she's going to lose, right? Because one of the things that I thought that they would have a tough time approving is that Black wasn't acting as an agent of Nicki, right? So, and Jennifer doesn't claim that Black was acting as an agent of Nicki, but I think she is going to try to prove that once you get into court, because although it goes a few days after the arrest, the plaintiff was contacted by an old childhood friend, Black, right? So why did Black contact her?
Yeah, like make that make sense.
Well, one version could be that Black saw this stuff developing on social media, and Black basically knew Nicki, and Black basically knew Jennifer. They were all childhood friends. So he's thinking, well, hey, I can get paid if I can just, resolve the situation, or maybe not even get paid. This is all alleged,
Can you
and
hear
this is
me?
all my theory. I have no way of proving any of this stuff. So this is just my theory. So one theoretical possibility is that he probably wanted to just resolve this between childhood friends. Another possible theory is that he basically wanted to resolve this so he can get paid and get in good grace with Nicki. And then another possible theory is that he was just basically Nicki's agent all along, and Nicki reached out to him as a middleman, right, to basically reach out to Jennifer. This is just my theory. I have no proof. I'm saying this up front, but that's a possible theory. Now, what I believe is going to happen is that once this case gets going, right, if it isn't dismissed, right, if because Nicki currently has her motion to dismiss, we'll see what happens with that. But one of my theories is that if the case is not dismissed, I think this is all just game. Even though Jennifer isn't saying that Black was Nicki's agent, I think what's going to happen if Tyrone Blackburn and the other lawyer is smart is that they are actually going to subpoena everybody's record, and they're going to look to see if Black and Nicki were in communication before they reached out to Jennifer. And if they were, then it's basically over for Nicki. Bottom line. And then don't say it about it. Basically, I believe Nicki did, because she did the same with academics, and she speaks on every single thing, but not once has she said, I don't agree with the offenders. Huh. Interesting. And then, and honestly, I don't think Nicki knew about Kenny being an offender. I think she found out when he got arrested for for not registering because he called her to bail him out. Damn, that would be crazy if she. It's hard to believe that she didn't know. It's really hard to believe, because think about it. Nicki is a mega superstar. She's an absolute mega superstar. So right, whenever I go out on a date, I be trying to hide my identity when I go on a date. But the first thing females do when I go out on a date is they start trying to look me up on. I don't even have an internet profile, right? The first thing they tried, besides this, and this is not my personal, identity. This is just a blogging identity. But the first thing females try to do is they try to look me up on the internet. And I'm thinking that in this day and time, nobody with money like that is not going to do a background check on the person that they're about to, date. So I'm pretty sure, in my personal opinion, I want to believe that Nicki was smart enough to do a criminal background check on him. I think. I'm going to mute you because you got an echo. Uh, I want to believe that she was smart enough to just, do basic checks. Um, on Kenneth before they decided to have kids. Um, I don't know. So it's going to be a crazy lawsuit. I think that Jennifer still has a strong case, even though she, in my personal opinion, she came out and she basically got on social media. I think that was a mistake on her part. Never go to social media and put your business out there, because when you do, you give other people the right to basically comment and respond. Even the person that's harassing you, that you're alleging is harassing you, has a right to respond to what you post on social media. So I think that was a mistake on her part. And then Vanderveer goes, it came out before he got arrested. He was on the list. Let me see. On top of that, she wrote a letter to the judge and asked if they go easy on his sentence. I don't care if he was my brother. Uh, huh. So yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see if they'll go easy on the sentence. It's hard to say. It's hard to say. I mean, because to be honest with you, when you got money and you got that much pull, you can almost make anything happen unless they're trying to make an example out of you. I don't see a reason they want to make an example out of Kenneth Petty. And a lot of times you can go in, like, take Tupac, for example. So Tupac was basically convicted and he was supposed to be in jail for a long time, but because Suge Knight had money, he went in with a couple of lawyers and then they paid, a couple of fees and made restitution. And that case was basically over. That dude walked right out of jail. So who's to say that the same thing can't happen for Kenneth Petty, right? But beyond that, they still have to deal with this lawsuit, right? And that's why I say the best thing to do is just to go ahead and settle it. I would believe that Jennifer Hugh would settle for a lesser amount. That's what I would believe. Just to go ahead and settle it. I would believe that Shakira, you got an open mic. She could at least say they don't stand with the man assaulting women, but can go on Twitter and say they say Meek abused her, but didn't Safari say he stabbed him? I don't know about all that. You teaching me some stuff. All right, so that's basically it. Like I said, I'm trying to get off of this computer so I can go ahead and do some other things. Unless don't say it about it. Don't say shit about it unless you want to come on and speak your piece on this whole situation. It's up to you. If you want to come on, I'll wait a few minutes. Otherwise, I'm going to shut it down.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You got an open mic. I muted you because you had an open mic. That's why you couldn't speak. But go ahead. Did you want to say something, Shakira? Oh, she probably can't hear me. So yeah, that is basically going to be it. Like I said, I've already really covered this lawsuit. Um, I don't think much was said in the Clubhouse interview that would reduce her chances by that much. She's still directly involved in this. I think she has a chance of saying that Black wasn't her agent, but they could still come back and argue that Nicki and Petty conspired, to basically try to get her to recant her, to get Jennifer to recant her story. I didn't see a conspiracy allegation here. I think they should have added I don't even know if New York has a civil conspiracy, but in Illinois we have something called civil conspiracy, and basically a civil conspiracy is when two people or more get together and they conspire against you, and a conspiracy just means that they all agree to try to go against you. So I'm not sure why they didn't add a charge like that in here. I'm not sure if New York has such a charge. I want to believe that they do. Don't say shit about it, Troy. But why 20 million? You know what? I think the 20 million amount is kind of a wish. They're basically shooting for the stars, but the reality of the situation is, I personally believe if that they said, look, we'll give you $500,000 and no more if you settle this now. and everybody move on, or it could be even less, probably something like 75,000 or something like that. I think that Jennifer would settle because there's no reason for Jennifer to run back and forth to court on the chance that she might lose, right? You always have to think about that.
That is
One,
true.
yeah,
That is true.
one thing about court is that even if you're right, and even if you have all the evidence in the world, if they call for a jury trial and the jury don't want to convict or find her guilty, then you're going to lose. So it's all a game. It's all a game. There's a lot of things that can be done in
And
this
and,
game.
and
Go
Nikki's
ahead.
from New York too, and oh my goodness, don't. Yeah, I would too. If they offered me, I wouldn't take no 75,000. No, but if they offered me a half a
Honestly, I
million, I'd
would. I
take it.
would.
No,
I
I
would
wouldn't.
because
Not
the
75.
reason
Not 75.
let me tell you why. Because, like I said, at the end of the day, it's going to be a jury. I think she made a mistake for asking for a jury. I would have let Nikki ask for the jury. I would have asked for a judge on this particular thing because, like you said, it's a New York thing, and like who doesn't know Nicki Minaj? And you would hope that you would have to get a lot of conservative people on the jury
She
stand,
could
but
definitely do better than 75, though. She can do better than 75.
well, I'm just saying that I would just take it.
75,000. What's 75,000 when your lawyer is going to take
I don't think they can take no more than like 25 to 30% or
33 and a
something.
third?
Is that what it
33
is
and
in
a
New
third.
York?
It could be more than that. I had to take civil action, and actually my lawyer got a little more than 33 and a third they because my case was taken pro bono, so it was 33 and a third plus the fees. So when they that process server, when you got to serve somebody, when you got to write a paper, any phone calls, all of that costs money.
Right. Well,
So
let me
they're
say
going to
this.
deduct all of that, whatever, all of the stuff you. They're going to deduct all of that. 75,000. That's
That's too
no.
low.
But I'm not saying that 500,000. But if they offer that, I would take it. Yeah, I would take if they offered it. But I
Well, the
think I
reason the
would
reason I think they
probably.
would is because they were going to. It's right here, right?
Oh
A few
well, then
days
yeah, I
after the
would take
defendant.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I say she should take it. Yeah, hmm take it
Well,
and
here's the
move on
thing
with
though.
her
They
life.
offered 500,000 for the recant, right?
Uh,
So it basically, let me just read it. A few days after defendant Minaj called the plaintiff's brother called her. He stated, hold on, what is it saying? A few days later, after defendant Minaj called the plaintiff, the plaintiff's brother called her. He stated that two people reached out to a family member stating an offer of $500,000, right? So allegedly, according to a lawsuit, somebody was going to pay $500,000. And I can see them paying that for a recant letter. Now, if they were going to pay $500 for recant letters, then to me, it would seem like if they just wanted all this to go away and just walk away and not even be bothered, because she can easily end up paying $500,000 in legal fees, easy.
yeah,
Going back
I
and forth
mean,
to court.
look at look at old girl over there with the Cardi B situation. I know she spent at least a $500,000 in attorney fees.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So instead of wasting money on an attorney, right? When you know you're wrong, you went to social media, you put all these lies out there, and then you harassed this girl, you contacted her, and you harassed her to try to get her to recant. You know you're wrong, right?
Yeah,
And I think maybe 200, maybe 300, just to put all this stuff to
yeah.
bed and just move on and just focus
Hey,
on
but
other
if they want to
things.
offer five, take that too.
Then I don't think they're gonna offer five because they
Probably
might, I
not.
don't know.
Probably not.
500 was for the recant letter, right? So for the defendant Minaj, if the plaintiff wrote a letter recanting her assault case, right? So 500 was for the recant letter. I don't know. I think at the end of the day, the best thing to do is, if I was Nikki, I would look at how much I'm paying my lawyer now, and I would add that up over the course of what, 3 or 4 years, and probably offer her less than that,
Half
and
of it.
then or half of it, and call it a day,
Yeah.
right? Because you're going to give that money to the lawyer anyway,
Mm-hmm.
and there's nothing for you to win. That's the thing she has to look at. If Nicki Minaj is if Nicki wins this, if let's say if it's dismissed, then she's good. Then she's only paid her lawyer X amount of dollars just to get it dismissed. So if it's dismissed, she's good. But if it's not dismissed, then you're going to potentially be paying a lawyer X amount of dollars over the course of 4 to 5 years. To this whole thing, goes back and forth to court and gets to a jury trial. It could be less, it could be 2 to 3 years, but the point is you're going to be paying a lot of legal fees and private investigators, and all this stuff is going to rack up. Now she may not care because she's a mega millionaire, but me personally, I don't want to be running
Heck
back and
no. Mm-mm.
huh?
Heck no. I always tell people it costs money to sue people.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Suing people is not for free.
And
You
and
know.
and and that's what I'm saying. But Nikki doesn't have anything to gain out of this. What is
No,
so
she
if Nikki
doesn't.
wins, what
She
does she
has
get?
everything to lose and nothing to gain. And this is why I don't even think she should allow this to go on any longer. I think she should have her attorney contact Jennifer's attorney, and they should work out an agreement outside of court. Because one is civil suit I had, that's exactly what we did. Because I learned from the first time. And like I told you, I had a judgment against me. I learned. I said, oh, it
Right.
costs money to sue me. When the last school situation I had got into an accident, and they was like, "Oh, we can do." Mm-mm. I said, "Mm-mm, mm-mm, mm-mm."
They telling what you want to hear because they want that
No, they wanted
payment.
no because listen, these lawyers they knew they could get money, but I wasn't willing to because see, I know that it costs money to sue,
Right. It can be a zero
and
sum
I'm
game.
not in the business of like spending so much money. Like when I saw the first time I had to Suso and I saw what the lawyer got paid. Now, don't get me wrong, I made out good. I made out good. Don't get me wrong. But when I saw what it cost, I said, "Oh," and I learned from that. We didn't even. We went into. I don't even know if I would call it a mediation. It went like this. We looked at the situation. We went over all of that. I went over that with my attorneys, and then they were like, "Oh, well, we can do this and we can do that and we can get you this." And I said, "Well, how long is it going to take?" And then they told me, and then I started calculating all of the numbers in my head. Never even told them that I was doing all this. So I left the office. I didn't say anything. He said, "Oh, we're going to meet again in 2 weeks." When I came back there, I said, "Look," I said, ask them would they be willing to settle. And I gave him a number. And he said, "Are you sure?" Because I said, "No, no, no, no." I said, "Ask. See what they say."
Right.
And the attorney asked, and I got what I asked for.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. So I mean,
So
I don't have
I
any
think
hate
they should
towards
do it.
Nikki.
If anything, they should try to ask for a mediation to see if it could be settled.
I mean, you don't necessarily. I mean, they can ask for
They
that,
don't
but I
necessarily
mean,
need mediation.
that's
What
what I'm
I'm saying
saying. You
is
can say,
they should
look,
try to
you can
open up
just
a dialogue between both sides and the attorney. Like, don't even do it through the courts. Just do it through the
oh,
lawyers.
it's too late. It's in court now.
Oh
So you
damn.
got it. They you
You
can
know
they can
what?
still
You know
they can
what?
still yeah, no, it's too late. I
You
mean,
know what?
that's why they
I
filed.
totally forgot that. I
Right.
totally forgot
Yeah.
that it's past
That's
that
why a
point.
lot of people file in court because they want some leverage. Like the
Okay,
fact that they
got you.
file it in court means that look, if you don't come to the table and negotiate, then we're going to
Okay.
proceed with this lawsuit. But they can still say, file a motion, say, hey, we want to sit down with an arbiter or a mediator, and we want to see if we can resolve this before this goes to trial. That can still happen. Or they can just simply just throw a number and say, look, how much is it going to cost to actually sell this? Or look, this is what we're offering. We're offering 300,000. This is what she's probably going to pay me in legal fees over the course of 2 or 3 years. She has nothing to gain, and this is all a waste of her time. So let's just go ahead and settle it, right? So I think that Nicki should settle it. I don't have any ill will towards Nicki.
No,
I
I don't
actually,
either. I think. I mean,
yeah,
I
no,
think
but a lot of people are saying that I'm
her
hating on
actions are
Nicki, and I'm
despicable, but I can't say I'm not a fan of her music.
right.
Um, I think for other reasons, and I'm gonna say this, and I've been noticing over the years, and there's been a lot has that's been said about Nikki, and I really feel like this situation right here, she needs to just make it go away because, recently I'm sure you heard about the comments she made about the Vaseline, right?
No, I didn't hear any. No.
The comments she made about the Vaseline. I'm not trying to say the word, but
No, go ahead. Go ahead and say
she
it.
made some comments about the Vaseline, and that rubbed some people the wrong way. And you know how it is when you get in, certain people's crosshairs.
Right.
It's open season. So I don't even know how the real interview came about with Jennifer. I don't know how that came about. But what I'm saying is you don't want, okay, first it's the real, right? Then what? Next CBS, and this can become something where different people who had gripes or that maybe she's wrong. It's kind of like, how like in situations where one woman comes out and says this happened, and then next thing you know, the floodgates open, and all of a sudden everybody got a story to tell.
Oh man, I hope, man,
That's
look.
what I'm thinking. Listen, I'm telling you, I feel that in my spirit. So I'm not sitting
Well,
here.
hopefully he's learned his lesson since then.
No. I'm
You know what
saying
I mean?
not no. When I say a story to tell, I don't mean necessarily those same kind of stories, but I'm saying things that Nikki
Okay.
did that was ignored before. One thing about the entertainment industry that people fail to realize is that when you do your dirt, they let you get away with it. They let you get away with it. They know, and then you do something or you piss off the wrong people and they pull the rug right from under you. And then
Right.
it's a domino effect. That's what I'm saying. I feel that, being the case with Nikki, this is what I'm saying. She made um those remarks about the Vaseline, and then she got into a back and forth with the reporter. She said some things. She said something to the effect of, your days is numbered, and then she
What?
put up a cryptic post saying, I got 50K, who outside?
Wow. Yeah,
In the
you know,
midst of all of
you
this
gotta be
going
you
on,
gotta
when
be
you
careful
doing this
when you
kind of stuff, they gonna make this go away before we be seeing a surviving Nicki
Nicki
Minaj.
Minaj.
I'm
Surviving the
serious. She
pettings
just
or
better cut
surviving
the
Nicki
check.
Minaj. Well, hey, look, I got to get off of here.
Okay, it was nice
Thank.
talking to you. Yeah, I
Oh,
gotta
you
get up
too
at
for
like
sure.
4 to start my day.
Yeah, go ahead and get some sleep. I'm going to do the same. Thanks for coming out, and make sure you share this live
I
stream if you
am.
like it. Okay. All right.
All
Talk to
right.
you later.
Take care. Thank you.
Peace.